You all must have heard I'm a real nerd. People say I'm a fool, but they never got the news that I'm a wild one. Oh yeah, I'm a wild one. You better turn it up, better keep the channel down, cause you're watching Vilemike and his real wild child. Oh yeah, I'm a wild one. You better turn it up, better keep the channel down, cause you're watching Vilemike and his real wild child.
Howdy, folks. This is Vilemike here, and so far with me is LDG and Elihu. How you guys doing?
Hey, weirdos. Hang on, I gotta switch headphones. These sound off.
How did I get here? Damn it, Vile.
You clicked the fucking link. That's how you got here. Don't play stupid.
What are you talking about?
Not like I didn't.
Dear Lord.
Little Clockwork Orange style.
Little pushy this morning? Huh? You wake up on the wrong side of the coffee or something?
Okay, now
I woke up really early to cross the border.
Oh,
Darren's here too.
Shit.
How you doing, man?
Well, there goes the stream.
Yeah,
crap. I'm out.
Yeah, the stream went as soon as you got somehow on here.
Oh yeah, real original. I'm rubber, you're glue. Did you trim your beard? No, I'm asking. It looks real shapely, like it took a. It's got some.
I combed it.
Oh, combing. Okay, I guess that simulates a clean cut.
Well, what we used to call grooming, but today grooming seems to have a different.
Yeah, well,
at least in the news vernacular.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that right now. Richie was by far the first person to be in the chat because he commented 18 hours early.
Damn.
What, with that comment?
No, it didn't say. It was before I posted the link because I was just pinning the link, and he commented right as soon as I started. I posted the video or the StreamYard link to YouTube.
I never got my notification you went live yet.
Well, I didn't receive my notification that I went live last week until like 3 hours after I had ended the stream.
Oh.
Prioritized.
Dandelion's not here. She says she's on a day trip with a friend, so hopefully she's having a good time. Jordan is going fishing, so hopefully he'll be in the chat, but hopefully he'll also catch some fish, which is why I also put the insert happy fisherman meme for Jordan. Do you guys know what the happy fisherman meme is?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, actually, I don't.
No. I'll Google.
I am completely clueless.
We know all doing that.
Yes. Go to the Google Mobile. Yvette's in the chat. So how you doing, Yvette, on the far side of the pond?
And what's for dinner tonight?
Humidity.
My kid really likes Tears of the Kingdom. He's been playing it every day since we got it last week. Yeah. The eldest Vile child bought her own copy. I think it's like the first game she's ever bought for herself with her own money. I could be wrong about that. Not including allowances or something. I'm talking about with money from her job. She finally bought her first video game. I think it's that one. The bullheads will bite on a bare hook. Well, hopefully they won't bite some worms.
If they're hungry enough.
All right. To talk about the reason for the title of the stream. Do you where I talked about it briefly with Elihu and LDG already because they were here before I started. But Darren, do you know what Abandonware is?
I could guess, but I don't want to. Go ahead, tell me what it is.
You don't want to call it LDG.
It's basically software that is still owned by certain companies, but they have no intention of using it, or they actually have inabilities to use it based on certain licenses, but they own it.
Okay, like Windows Movie Maker.
I don't know if that qualifies, but if it does,
They don't update it anymore, but it's still technically theirs.
but basically, I got a hankering to play an old Windows game recently. And that game is, I'll see if I can bring it up real quick.
Well, I have a good example. of that. Morrowind. If you were to download Morrowind from Steam right now and try to play it on your PC, you wouldn't be able to. It's not compatible with most computers anymore, and there's no patch to make it work. You have to actually download some fan-made modder patch to get it to run on Windows 10 and such.
Morrowind wouldn't count only because it's part of an IP that is still in use, and ideas and representations.
Okay. I guess
so. It's like,
okay.
Yeah, so that technically wouldn't count. This specific game is called Solar Winds. It's it's basically a Star Wars ripoff. I mean, your primary ship even looks kind of like a X-wing from the top down.
Right. Okay.
And you play as a bounty hunter. Go figure, right?
Yeah.
But it was a cool little game. I only got it as freeware back in the day, and I never got to beat the full game because I only ever had the freeware version.
Mm-hmm.
And I could only find it on a site called Abandonware, and they give the legal definitions for it. And even they say, technically it is illegal to download this, but because of the way the licenses are and the fact that the company doesn't give a shit, we're going to keep it up until they tell us not to. And it's literally been on their website for almost a decade now.
Basically, they don't care.
Pretty much. I mean, they give credit. They even link to the freaking original creators, which is Moby Games. And Moby Games, still exists. So it's not like they don't know they own the IP.
So what's the general thing you're trying? Is this just do you know about this? Or
well, the ethics part would be, technically I'm breaking the law by doing this. But do you think it's worthy of, being punished for breaking the law? Because I'm admitting right now on this live stream that I broke the law to download this game from 1992. So we're talking about a 30-year-old game. God, I feel old now.
Okay.
But do you think it's...
I missed something. What law were you actually breaking?
Well, because I didn't pay for the game.
Is this kind of like Livewire?
Is it for sale anywhere?
It is still for sale on Moby's website, even though it's not, it's not something you can play on a normal game. You still need it's a DOS game. You can't really get a DOS program to run on a modern computer other than an emulator now.
Let me ask you a question, Mike. Does this place where you got the game, does it actually host a link, or does it actually basically pin to a link to the actual off-site website to get the game itself?
I don't know. I would assume they're hosting it themselves.
But okay. So you're wondering if it's stealing?
Well, yeah, and like your guys' opinions, would it be considered stealing for doing this, even though it's not something they care about?
We already know LDG's opinion on this, so there's that. But I guess if they wanted to enforce that law in your case, they could. But if they're not,
To me, it sounds like Livewire or Napster case where they actually had the links on the direct server. But some of these so-called free, quote-unquote, free streaming platforms, they don't have the links. They have external links where you can watch the videos and stuff, so they can technically get away with it. If this website is actually hosting the link itself, they're technically pulling a Napster and a LimeWire. So yeah, technically they are breaking the law. Anybody who downloads it on that site is technically breaking the law. Technically.
Yeah.
Only some laws, not all the laws.
Yeah, situations like this are why we have a court system, because it's not as clearly defined. Some people as it would be. So I mean, I'm gonna put my check mark in the maybe column on this one.
Now, I did a little bit of research into this specific game, Now, the website abandonware.com has like hundreds, if not thousands, of games on there that are all from, the 80s, early 90s, and some of the, post-millennium games. But they're all under the definition of abandonware. Like, Moby can sell the game, but they can only sell the version of the game that they specifically own. Because the game itself I got the little screen up here, was created by James Schmaltz. He owns all the characters, all the ship designs. He did everything else. They can't produce another game. They can't even make a port to Android or something like that without his permission, and he has no intention of doing that because they screwed him over after a while. So even though Moby's selling the game, they can only sell the version that they own, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. The one they're licensed to sell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This specific version, this specific version is the shareware version, so this one is technically completely legal to own because it was given by the guy who created it for free to drum up sales for the sequels.
Right.
The whole point was originally there was going to be 3 episodes for this game. Only 2 were ever released, and the first one was free.
Right. Well, it's one of those things where he might be having plans and designs for the future of releasing it, and he might be trying to create what they call artificial scarcity with that particular product. That kind of thing has been done before in various ways, but I think I might have heard of Solar Winds a long time ago, but obviously look at the game.
When I got the game originally, it was on a CD-ROM that it was one of those you could get for $1 at Office Depot that was like 1,000 games on one disc.
I remember those.
What are you showing off, Darren?
5.
I'm just drinking cherry flavor.
Oh, I thought it was a beer or something.
No. It's early. I'm not a beer drinker anyway. I do have, though, behind me, it's right there, a bottle of Doc Collier, which you can't get anymore. It's a moonshine that they sold in my store that looked like it came in a patent remedy bottle. Here, right there is a can of Stillhouse, which is moonshine that comes in a gas can. Right in front of the Conan comic. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's kind of funny. I would actually want to see one that's like in a genuine box that says snake oil. And remember, my family used to make moonshine back in Texas, so I grew up drinking moonshine literally at like age 5.
Well, you probably would think that the stuff that I sell is pretty weak then. Most of it is 30
proof
60 proof, 30% and stuff like that. So it's all about the flavors that are available for us. It's not about how quickly it gets you fucked up.
Yeah, this was the stuff my uncle made was about 90 proof with nothing. The only other thing in there was peach flavoring.
Right. Yeah, we're all about the novelty of moonshine, the actual potency of moonshine.
And well, this version is the free version, not the Moby version. The sequel, however, episode 2, is the Moby version, which for some reason they are not selling on their website. And I did download the sequel because I've never got to play it. And I thought I'd replay the first one before I, go to the sequel. So, but that's. I just wanted, I thought it'd be a nice little subject to broach. Does it matter?
Interesting. Well, I think that vintage games like that, or whatever you want to call it, retro games. It's contrary to what somebody like Rock Solid might say, I think that's a pretty niche group. So it may be slow for legality to catch up with this issue.
Well, like for instance, as a game reseller, I mean that's how I was literally making my income for a good chunk of my life was reselling video games. In my mind, most of the time when you're downloading a game, you're doing it the not right way. Like I literally had people bringing to me games that they had downloaded onto it, off a server, burned it to a disc, slapped an Xbox label on there because it would play on an Xbox, and try to sell them to me. And I'm like, dude, that's illegal. I'm not going to do that. Or someone saying, oh, I don't.
Well, I don't know that it's illegal. It's definitely violating the Xbox brand.
Oh, that is definitely breaking many bootleg laws.
Right, but I mean, would you go to civil court for that, or would you go to criminal court for that?
Technically, they would have to sue me, so it would be a civil court matter.
Right, that's civil then, yeah. It's just like breaking a contract. It's not illegal to break a contract in the United States.
Now, the other part of that is with a lot of civil cases, if the district attorney chooses to bring up the case, they can also file criminal charges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But they usually wait until after the civil trial has concluded.
Right.
There's a very famous case back when I worked for Sony.
Mm-hmm.
I used to, for those that don't know, I used to be an alpha tester for Sony. I actually worked for another company, and Sony hired me or contracted me out to work for them. And I worked on games because I knew the programming aspect. I could actually tell the programmers, what needed to be changed as well. It wasn't just playing a game and finding bugs. It was, knowing the limitations of the hardware and the software that they were working with. Every week, not every week, I'd say more like every month, we'd get a newsletter made by Sony. And it was like think of it like a small newspaper when I say that.
Right.
And one section would be the legal department for Sony. And this is Sony across the planet, not just San Diego. And they would have court cases that they had either won or lost for the legal department. And at least every time there was one where they would sue some random person for selling bootleg games, or one guy was selling memory cards for the Nintendo DS with old PlayStation 1 and 2 games on there. And they would get like, a gigabyte memory card and put, 100 or so PlayStation 2 games on there.
Yeah.
And they would also say like what the consequences of those cases were. And there was like one case where a guy was literally just selling the memory cards for a competitor's product with Sony's games. And they got like, the fine was like $25 million. And they ended, when they ended up doing the criminal case, he also got like 25 years in jail. So there was the civil case and the criminal case.
Yeah.
No, and what's really funny about it, Richie, is I technically can't talk about most of the games I worked on.
He said, don't answer that.
Are fairly old at this point.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you what games I worked on. I just can't tell you what I did for those games per se.
You must have signed an NDA. I mean, there's got to be a statute of limitations on that.
I did sign an NDA, and some of the times it really sucked is I'm a smoker, and when you were doing some of these projects, you're doing it right before the game is going to final pressing. So they would lock us up inside the building for between 7 and 14 days. You are not allowed to leave the building. Eat all your meals in their kitchen. You sleep in the building.
Did they have a barracks in there for you or something?
They had a small barracks type thing where, a bunch of cots set up in one of the other playrooms that normally has a bunch of systems hooked up.
Yeah.
And yes, you got paid to sleep because you're on the clock the entire time.
Yep.
And in the middle of the building was this one tiny, like 6x6 patio area with a single ashtray that was always overflowing with cigarette butts.
Yeah, gamers, what do you expect? Sheesh.
But yeah, some of the crunch time stuff was really hectic, but I got paid a shit ton of money at the time. I mean, it was when you're basically working, on the 7th day, you're getting triple or quadruple your normal rate.
Right.
It's nuts.
Well, that's part of doing business sometimes. I mean, that's, yeah.
And as far as I know, they don't do that anymore. At least I don't know if they still do it because I haven't worked for Sony in
At-home game testers.
at least I'd say 16 years. Because I think Caddy was about 2 or 3 when I started or when I stopped working there. But yeah, the company I actually worked for was called CDI, and I got lent out to 989 Studios. I got to work for Rockstar San Diego and a couple other places that were here in San Diego making games.
What is that animal in the background I hear?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a crow.
Oh, okay. Be nice to them. They recognize faces.
I'll throw them some candy later.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? What do you guys think of mashups in general?
Most of them suck.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them do. Some of them work surprisingly well. I think part of it is just if you like one of the songs being used, you're not generally going to warm up to a mashup. If it's a favorite song of yours, but if it's one that you kind of liked, that was on the radio, sometimes they can really spruce it up.
Aerosmith, RMDC, Run DMC, Walk This Way.
Well, that's an actual song, though. I'm talking about a mashup, an internet mashup, where somebody took the vocal track from one song and inserted it into a modified version of another song. So, I know
what you're talking about, and that for the illegal, for the aspect to relate it back to what we're talking about, is what they're doing legal because you're taking not just one person's other work and reposting as your own. You're posting 2 people's work and reposting as your own, and all you really did was,
editing, basically. I mean, yeah. And I wasn't necessarily discussing the legality of it so much as just the general. I mean, some people make it akin to social or pop culture vandalism. And it's like, well, you're not really defacing a song so much as just providing an alternative version of said song. But, it's an interesting subject. I mean, they're starting to really catch on the internet now. And I just wondered
actually, Darren, there's this app that I use. I know what you're talking about. Sorry. It's called, let me open my phone here. It's called Revive. You can take any still picture and it'll animate the face and the mouth to do any kind of audio, vocal, a song, or anything like that. I've been kind of tinkling with it, and people have been liking my little creative art projects. This is how it's considered now as a little creative art project if you actually do that.
Right. Well, obviously, if you're trying to make money with mashups, there's a question there. There's a guy, for example, on YouTube that does some pretty good ones called his channel is called Bill McClintock. That's the guy's name, and he has a Patreon where you can get the ones that YouTube had him take down, and for $3 a month you have access to, among other things, those mashups. He's got to provide something else in addition to that in order to probably stay out of trouble, but I thought that was kind of interesting. If you don't have an opinion one way or another, then we'll just drop it.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of, I don't go looking out for that kind of stuff. So
I call it creative art.
Yeah, I mean he's got one on there that just kind of blew me away. It was Survivor singing "Eye of the Tiger" to a Merle Haggard song. So it was like, and it's surprising how much "Eye of the Tiger" sounds like a country song when you put country music backup music behind it.
What about the Dragula to the Grease high school dance scene? Have you seen that little mashup?
Did not. I've not seen that.
That was very interesting. Well done cut. I actually like that version.
Yeah. Yeah. The one that I listened to most recently was he did one years back where he mixed Motley Crue with Martha and the Vandellas.
Hola, Mrs. Cardenas.
Yeah, and it was that was a way of really kind of sprucing up that old song, and I thought that was anywho.
Well, to go back to the subject of the title,
Right.
is there any Abandonware games that you would want to play, or is there any that you actually would recommend that might be Abandonware from that time period? Because I would recommend everyone should play this game just because of how schlocky it is. But I mean, like, I don't know if you're noticing when I started playing it a little bit, the main character's name looks like a freaking Vulcan, although he's human.
Right.
And his name is Jake Stone. It's like you couldn't get more 80s schlockfest hero name than that.
He looks like he's a black Vulcan.
I think he is, or I don't know. Sometimes the color palette is kind of weird in this game.
In the 70s, you used to see black, action heroes with names like Stone and or the word black was in their name.
Max
For example.
Steel.
Yeah. Or Luke Cage, a strong sounding single syllable last name,
Shaft.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth. When you're just talking about Shaft.
And I didn't say it verbally, but yeah, Mrs. Vile's in the house. So.
Oh, you didn't say it verbally? How did you say it then? Like farting?
No, I typed it in the chat.
Okay, I gotcha.
Christy Love.
Christy Love.
Who?
Pepsi Love. Coke Love.
Why are you here? Well, I decided to play a game. That's why I'm here.
Oh yeah, the first thing that happens in this game is you're contacted, by an alien who tells you exactly where his home planet is, or at least close to his home planet, and it's like, it's kind of stupid. The whole point of the game is apparently there's like a precursor race that took humans off Earth and put them into another solar system. And then they have these giant force fields that surround all major star systems to prevent people from escaping their solar systems. And you're in one of those solar systems that's stuck in one of these force fields. There's 3 stars in it, and one of them has an alien race that's the bad guys. One of them has an empire type place that's the bad guys, and a bunch of rebels that are also the bad guys. But there's also rebels that are good guys, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It plays off of all the tropes from the 80s and early 90s. I mean, there's evil empire, there's evil aliens, you're a bounty hunter. As I said, your ship basically is an X-Wing, or at least it looks like an X-Wing from the top down. And you just do little missions to make your ship better and better until you end the game. That's about it. You get to a certain point and the game just ends.
A lot of games were like that. I remember, almost like they just abandoned it, or they maybe intended a sequel but never came out with one. You know, I think of the original Half-Life and how that ended. You know, it was it both was and was not a satisfying ending, because we don't know at the end of that game what exactly happened to the character you're playing, Morgan Freeman, because it was a choice involved. And you're like, okay, which one is the official choice?
All right.
You know, same thing with Portal. That game ended with you wanting more, which I guess is the smart way to end the game, because then the audience is going to want more, and they're waiting for your next game. But if you never intend to make one,
and I do got to question you a little bit, Darren. Are you sure that you were playing as Morgan Freeman?
Did I say Morgan Freeman? Yeah.
Yes, you
Morgan
did.
Freeman. Gordon Freeman, yes.
Yes, you
Would they be
did.
able to? Would they be able to make a multiplayer game in which it's like an online MMO, but there's a time travel mechanic where you can time travel within the map, and depending on what is done, so I could go in the past, change something, or change the outcome of a mission or a quest or whatever, or do something that would affect players in the future in real time.
Not the future. I don't think that would work. I don't think that would work, because
computers would
let you interfere with somebody else's gameplay.
Exactly. That's the point. Yeah. So if I interfere with someone's gameplay, right, then that would ripple forward, and the person that wherever they are in the timeline, let's say, okay, so it's not just like the way I said, right? You would need to like come up with like cool shit. Like, for instance, if you're time traveling, I'm assuming you would have some kind of device that would shield you from immediate timeline changes and warn you. So let's say if I went back in time and killed you, then you in the future, or wherever you are, would get a warning that a timeline change directly to your timeline is done, and that would force you to go back and fix it.
You know, I have to believe that somebody as good with computers and software as you could make that. So why don't you go ahead and do that?
Wouldn't that be cool? Then you go back in time, and you would, like, that's the multiplayer, that's the PvP aspect. You would try to fix that, either kill him or put yourself somewhere else, or come up with some cool way of getting around it. I mean, it's not just player versus player. It's an environment thing. So you could make one small change that fixes yourself, or saves yourself in some way, or changes back something that's been changed. And it's all has to do with paradoxes upon paradoxes. Matter of fact, you could just call the game Paradox.
No.
Thanks for joining us, LD. It's too bad you couldn't be here with us today.
Can you at least try to go along with something I come up with once? Or do you automatically always have to shoot it down dramatically without any kind of conversation?
I already encouraged you to go ahead and pursue it.
Yeah, that's a cop-out. We're here talking about it.
No, it's not.
No shit, I can go and pursue it. You can pursue the bathroom. You can pursue my foot. It doesn't matter. Okay? I think that would be a very interesting game. They can pull it off. And in fact, let me finish this. A computer could actually, computer game could actually do it. Shut the hell up. A computer game can actually do it.
La, 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 la. Nobody's listening. Shut the fuck up.
Oh, now you're Cockney? Okay.
You know, Mike has the power to mute.
Yes, he does.
I have the power, but I'm enjoying the argument more.
Yes. That's the point, finally.
Blizzard Entertainment experimented with something akin to what you're talking about, but they couldn't make it work. So, I mean, it was...
Why couldn't you start with that comment? Why couldn't you say that interesting comment that you just made and rewind it, go back in the history and start with that one?
Because it didn't matter.
Because I didn't know they did one. What did they do? What was it called? What was the game?
There was a quest line within WoW where you encounter a future version of yourself, and then you have this little, you have to defeat a boss, and then later on in the quest line, you as your now future self have to go back and help your older self. And there was a way they wanted to try to predict the gear you're wearing and things like that, and they couldn't make it work. There was another thing they were trying where it would have required the server to be recording everything that everybody was doing, in perpetuity, in order for them to be able to recreate an event that happened a couple hours ago in the game. And it was too too processor heavy, and they just abandoned it. But they at least looked into the feasibility of doing this, because there's, in World of Warcraft, there's this dragonflight called the Bronze Dragonflight, and they're the masters of time, and so you have time travel stories that come out of that part of the game.
All right, though it's not exactly what I was describing, it is similar-ish.
I know I did say it wasn't exactly what you were talking about, but
I give it to you. It's similar-ish, but yeah, no.
The fact is that the game would have to be able to recreate events that, especially if you're going into the past. Now the future, I don't know how the fuck you're going to do that, but it just to simulate you going back in time and experiencing events that had happened on that server like 8 hours ago. It would have to know precisely how everything happened, and have to save that data. And if it had to do that for everybody, it would be a monster.
Well, you're actually not half wrong, but it's doable.
I await that game.
The game would be in a constant state of flux, but the games do that. Every single move, it has to recalculate a whole bunch of stuff anyway.
You can call it Polybius 2.
Test it in Oregon or Seattle, okay?
Yes, yeah. I love people that make their mock-up Polybius games. I just think it's funny. I'd love to buy one and have it in the just as a conversation piece. Have it in the corner, Wouldn't even have to turn it on.
And I forgot to do some things in the game, so.
You think that looks like an X-wing, huh?
From the top down, yeah, I think it does.
I mean, the same general shape, maybe. I mean, but yeah.
Engine placement, weapons placement, cockpit placement. So
yeah, spaceship. The wings are on the back.
Yeah. Basically, a biplane.
Oh, I'm already under attack. Hold on.
I don't know why crafting wings.
Yes, I'm running away.
Yeah, I remember when those were
not
awesome.
Because the enemies in this game are particularly hard. It's because
you suck at the game.
No, it's because literally the first thing you get in the game, your first payment is a device that once you turn it on and you destroy an enemy craft, it gives you more energy. And the whole point about this game is energy management when it comes to, you see all the little scales right here at the bottom right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you got to figure out, you got to manage all that stuff. You got your weapons, life support, engines, sensors, and then your each shield, fore, aft, left, and right. Even though if they use fore and aft, why couldn't they use port and starboard?
Yeah.
But yeah, when I first played it as a kid, I always took away all the shields to put it into weapons, because as long as you don't get hit too many times, and you can change the amount of weapons from fire 1 to there we go, 2, and of course 3. Now the more you fire, the less powerful the weapon is, obviously, but it gives you more spread. And then at the very end of one of the last things you do in the game is you have to use a hyperdrive to go to another solar system within that little force field bubble. where the bad guys are, or the enemies that when you saw it on the screen at the beginning. And it takes up a lot of energy to do that. So it's best not to destroy anything until after you've completed the first mission. And I forgot where I'm going.
Crazy.
Obviously.
But that's how it goes. Okay, the song is in your head now, see.
Baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo.
No, you idiot. No, you idiot. Somebody said crazy, and I said...
I know, I'm trying to get a song out of my head, okay?
Okay, gotcha.
No more Willie Nelson right now.
Ozzy. It's Ozzy Osbourne.
Oh.
Shithead.
I had crazy
Also,
Willie Nelson in my head.
if you... Whoops, I did not mean to do that. Stop. Why? No, stop moving. There you go. If you look at my weapons, I don't know why he's spinning like that. Stop it.
Spinning's fun.
Hey, Grogu can spin in the chair. Oops,
I'm just going to keep rotating while I explain this. Look at where my weapons are at the bottom.
Hey, thanks for coughing in your mic. Shithead.
What?
Thanks for
Blow
coughing
me.
in your mic. Mike, LTG. Mute yourself, shithead. You're not an under.
I muted myself when I coughed.
You can change your weapon.
Dude, I coughed like 1,000 times. You heard one.
But like right now, you only start with 2. So this guy's shield would be something that I can't take out.
Right.
Because if you look at his ship at the top right, that gives you his shields and his weapons.
You know, I thought I was a bad speller. Peace, I before E, except up to C, man. Piese. Come on.
Hey, Vile Mike, did you know that Salty Trekker apparently owes LDG $100?
For what?
A bet.
LDG
insists
okay,
that
what was the
insists
bet?
he won. Yeah,
I'm you're the one that said it, so go ahead and explain it to him.
It has to do with the last episode of Strange New Worlds.
Oh, because of that
the
one
implications.
freaking line. Okay, I saw Strange New Worlds yesterday. When me and Mrs. Vile were visiting her family, I was sitting on the couch watching Strange New Worlds on my phone because I don't speak enough Spanish to help with the conversation. So, there's one line in that episode where I was just like, "Oh, great! That Salty is going to use that as complete and utter vindication for his 3 timeline theory when it comes to Star Trek."
What line?
No,
was
infinite
it?
timeline theory. It destroys the 3 timeline theory.
What
No,
line?
He's actually going to refine his triple timeline theory into an infinite timeline theory.
Exactly.
Which
I already trademarked that.
What line was it?
I don't care about the line. It's just, what line is he talking about?
Timeline theory from me, because I was the first person on YouTube to talk about the 3 timelines. Granted, I was talking about Zelda, not Star Trek. But yeah, the whole idea of having 3 different timelines was my idea.
But the triple timeline is so lazy. You're only taking the timelines that you experience within the actual shows and movies. But in reality, the shows constantly throw in our face that there are infinite timeline changes happening all the time.
It's also based on a general dislike for the premise of Enterprise.
What, his
I basically bet. I bet Salty.
His adherence to the events that were depicted in Balance of Terror, which I maintain aren't what they're cracked up to be. Go ahead.
So anyway, I told Salty that they would use, because we saw the preview for this week's episode, and I said, yeah, watch them use this episode to explain all the inconsistencies between all the different truck shows under the temporal prime directive and some infinite, timeline shit. And son of a bitch, that's exactly what they did.
Well, see,
timelines we're not supposed to know about.
I'm assuming we've all seen the episode right now, so we're not. I wouldn't be talking about any spoilers.
Well, there's a you've seen Picard season 3, right? Wow.
Yes.
Okay, you know that in the Section 31 black site, there was apparently the corpse of James T. Kirk, and it said in the paragraph of information on the screen that he was critically injured, previously, and of course that doesn't jive with what we saw. He was killed and buried under rocks, and he had to have been decomposing for quite a while before they picked up his body. So there's speculation now that the Kirk that they have is actually the one played by this new actor that's playing Captain Kirk, and that he might show up in the future, where he's this weird Captain Kirk actor who's not going to be the star of his own show. He's always going to be guest appearing as Captain Kirk in various shows.
Mm-hmm.
It was an interesting thing.
No, I was talking about the line where the chick says, which was funny. When I first saw the chick, I was like, "Oh, she's playing the Silverman character from that Star Trek Voyager episode." But no, she ends up, not being that. Yeah. But her whole line of this was supposed to happen in 2002, and now
1992.
Sorry, 1992. Thank you.
Yeah. Which I don't know where they got that year, because we know that Khan left in the Botany Bay, according to his own words, in 1996. So but maybe it was changing even before the first information was given. So, her being kind of driven nuts by the fact that things keep getting postponed and she keeps having to stay on Earth in this modified cosmetic state, and kind of there was I thought that was kind of an interesting thing where the actress did that, where she's implying through her tone of voice that she's being driven insane by this time travel shit.
So you guys are saying that with this latest episode, the Bell riots never happened in 2024?
Who knows?
Good, I'm safe. I lived on the street from the sanctuary district.
The only thing I would argue that they could get away with is World War III being so bad that it wiped so many records that everything's incorrect.
Right. I am getting tired, though, of all the aliens that apparently came to Earth and interfered with human development prior to first contact. I mean, it was Enterprise did a nice one with Carbon Creek, because those Vulcans really didn't change anything too badly. They apparently created Velcro, but Velcro is a fucking failure anyway. But
that's when it happened.
Yeah, but now we have Romulans, and UFO sightings of intruders and things like that. So but you know what? I mean, at this point, I look for reasons not to be upset anymore, because I don't like being upset at a TV show. It makes me feel like a little kid.
You didn't like Little Green Men?
Oh, I thought Little Green Men was hilarious.
Okay.
As a character piece, when it's one of those things where they didn't really change anything, you know what I mean? They didn't really influence anything. Now, the Voyager episode where the time ship Aeon, Braxton's ship crash lands.
That didn't make any sense. Yeah,
because the idea that the computer revolution of the 90s was based off of this event, I thought was horse shit, because then when they undo the event, I can't remember exactly how that went, but if they undo the event, then we still have the computer revolution of the 90s. So okay,
it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, plus the whole point about that episode takes place right smack dab in 1996.
Right. The year
Khan left. Launching. Now I will say they did have a little nod to continuity in that respect. If you look at the Sarah Silverman part of that episode, she has a model of the Botany Bay with boosters attached to it, like it would launch from Earth.
Right.
These massive boosters, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Right. Well, I mean, there was a novel that they released. And novels aren't canon or continuity, but it was attempting to provide an explanation as to how everything that was said in TOS and Wrath of Khan could gel with what we were presented with in that Voyager two-parter, and they basically made it out to be this clandestine war, a war that a lot of Americans didn't know what was going on, and that it was almost like how the terms Cold War is used to describe, there was no actual war per se.
I read the books.
The eugenics war.
Well done.
Yeah, I mean they were trying to make sense of it all for people, and now they're just saying, well, we're moving it back, kind of like Skynet keeps getting moved back,
Yeah.
And
I didn't read the third one because I didn't really give a crap about how we survived on the planet, but
yeah,
the first two I thought were really well done. Plus, they brought back Gary Seven, which for some reason I like Gary Seven, and every time they bring him back in the books, I always think it's funny.
I got a question about the last episode. Why the hell did she leave the gun with Khan?
Why did she what?
Leave the gun with Khan. She left the gun in the room with the kid.
Whatever. I mean, nothing seems to matter anymore anyway. So there's a lot of things. I can totally see Lon actually leaving the show by ceasing to exist and going to an alternate world where her Kirk, the one that she fell in love with, they get to live happily ever after, and nobody in the Prime universe remembers Lon because she never existed. Therefore, she doesn't. Nobody in Space Seed mentions, oh, by the way, Khan, an ancestor of yours once served on this ship. But at this point, I mean, we've already seen an interesting sort of continuity shift with the Klingons this season. Nobody mentioned that they look and act differently now and sound differently. Well, Uhura mentioned that they were using a different dialect than she was used to, but she could still understand them. And it was just one of these things where, okay, going forward, they're going to look and act like this now, and nobody mentions it. So it's weird.
I do hope they bring the TOS era Klingons into it and even have a mixed crew.
They'd save so much money if they went with the Russians with Mexican makeup Klingons from TOS. I mean, when we saw them on Enterprise, I thought they were really interesting. Because now we have modern acting techniques and things like that, where you have these actors playing Klingons, saying the kinds of things that Klingons would say, but saying them the way a human being would was kind of neat. No more guttural, when they talk.
But that was J.G. Hertz's trademark.
Yeah, I know. He was one of the more eloquent Klingons.
I know.
The various ones that he played, But I mean, you look at, for example, Trouble with Tribbles. The first thing Koloth says to Kirk is, "Ah, my dear Captain Kirk." The Klingons obviously did not talk the same way, and I think Enterprise did a really good job of explaining that not only will there be some cosmetic changes, but there will be some what Phlox called synaptic reordering, which explains personality changes as well, and so. And then eventually Koloth gets his Klingon balls back apparently, and then he's back to being yeah.
Hey,
That's
I'm
funny.
paneled.
I went to highlight his comment, and immediately my ship went crazy. Unfortunately, I didn't get hit.
Yeah, I remember when you had to have a beefy PC to play a game like that. There was no such thing as a graphics card back then.
Oh yeah.
My old computer that I played it on was a 286.
Oh yeah.
With a full modem and the whole nine. I mean,
Try using a VGA monitor with a shitty graphics card, okay?
One of the things I try to explain to my kids was my first computer was an Amiga.
Green.
Where the hard drive was 64 kilobytes that I upgraded to 128 kilobytes.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that sounds like a lot. And I'm like, okay, let me take a picture of you Let me show you how big the picture is. This picture would have filled up 10 of my old computers.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I remember when my first computer had a 500 megabyte hard drive, and the salesman said, "That's more than you'll ever need."
Yeah, right.
I remember installing a version of Windows on my original Amiga because the Windows Lite type OS that Amiga had sucked so royally.
Right.
And the version of Windows I put on there was version 1.02.
Wow.
And it took up like 75% of the hard drive space. So I had to run all my games from the floppy drives because it had one 3x5 or 3.5 diskette drive and two 5.5-inch floppy drives. So I'd literally put like a game, the game in both floppy drives so I could run it at the same time. That way I wouldn't have to take one disc out, put another disc in, because it was nuts back then.
Sci-Fi Nation's in the house.
And Daniel, Sci-Fi, if you want to come up, link should be pinned.
I think it still is.
Yes, I'm talking about my floppy.
Who is Jim's Landscaping LLC?
I know I've seen him before. Although suddenly everyone's avatar on StreamYard just crashed on me.
Not me. It's still going.
Yeah. A friend of mine had an Atom computer. Do you remember those? It was made by, I think it was ColecoVision.
Mm-hmm.
Coleco.
And it had cassette tape storage too.
You talking about the one that, to be super futuristic and sleek, had no venting whatsoever?
Yeah, you could use it in the winter in Wisconsin. That's about it.
And actually, NRJ, my Amiga did have a cassette drive, but we literally used it as a backup for the hard drive. So whatever you were working on that, as like, think of it as RAM or extra RAM. It would write whatever you had on there right before the computer would crash, or if there was a loss of power, it had a external power supply brick that plugged into the side of the frickin'
I remember those things.
tower part, or at least what you consider the tower, which would provide power for like 2 to 3 minutes.
We called them the CPUs.
Sorry?
We called them the CPUs. And then there was a monitor, then a keyboard. It's not all one piece, remember?
No, the Amiga had a separate monitor from the tower.
The Atom had venting on the back, by the way.
Speaking of back, Sci-Fi Nation's backstage.
Don't let him in. Don't let him in.
Yeah, like speaking of back, Sci-Fi is backstage.
But I have a picture of an Atom computer, and it has vents in the back, but no forced air, most likely.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was so famous for overheating that during the convention where it was announced, they had to put it in opaque, tinted glass, so people couldn't see how much smoke was coming from it.
Oh man,
what's that got to do with the smoke coming out of it? That looked like, I like that. That looked like it was actual cassette tape drive in the front.
You just got done saying that that's what it had. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. I was in the process of coming up on stage, Darren. My bad.
How many have you had?
None. How many have you had, Darren?
How many do I normally have?
I don't know. I'm not there with you, so I wouldn't know.
Insufficient data.
I have them for decoration, as you can see behind me, but I don't.
Oh, is that what you call them? Okay.
Yeah. I don't. Most of the bottles are empty. But...
He's like a college student. Every single can of beer he's ever had is on his windowsill. Okay.
Yeah. I've retained my youth in that
Mike,
regard.
Jim's Landscape is a friend of mine that I'm involved with doing fan film type stuff with. So
Well, not a troll, not a Kronos.
no, not a troll. Definitely not a Kronos. Kronos is a beloved troll. We love
Oh.
Kronos.
I've seen him before in the chat, so at least I recognize him.
Yeah, I've seen number one. I'm like, okay, full name this time.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jim. Yes, I will vouch for Jim. Jim's a good guy.
But who's going to vouch for you?
That is a question, isn't it?
Because Darren said don't let him up here.
Well, I know what Darren says. So.
Yeah, the Wikipedia article on the Atom computer lists its many defective issues. Many early atoms were defective, and they list all the problems that had to be resolved.
Yeah, it was not a great computer, in my opinion. Granted,
We didn't get a great computer for another decade and a half.
I don't know. I think the Commodore 64, which if you know anything about the Amiga was basically a souped up / cheap version of the Commodore 64.
I love
A friend of mine had a Commodore 64, and I forgot about that. You're right. That was
Hey.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I loved it when it came out, man. That's what we had in school.
I had a 64 back in the very early 80s. My cousin had a VIC-20. He found a 64. He gave it to me. He gave me the tape drives and everything for it. Plus, I could enter commands and make it do like 20 codes of line and make it do like a 5-second sound on the TV screen. It was kind of cool back in the day.
1 to 10, yeah, the code, yeah, 10, yeah. I know they're doing that. See.
And of course, what was the computer that Matthew Broderick used to break into defense networks?
Whopper.
It's
Well,
if
that's
any
not the
computer
computer
could do
he
that.
used, was it? I thought that was the computer that was the bad thing.
Oh, from his home, from his bedroom. I'm not sure.
Right.
Wasn't that a trash 80?
I don't think there was a consumer model computer that could have probably done that, but maybe smart enough to make it happen.
You gotta love the old school taking the phone off the hook and putting it on the modem.
Oh my
Got
gosh,
its own thing on
Yeah.
I will say, at least when the first modem I ever had was a modem that actually had a phone jack in it, so you could just plug a phone cord from that jack in the modem to the phone jack on the wall.
Well, that was everything from 14.4 baud on. So, just saying. We're not even talking K yet. We're talking 14.4 baud.
Millennials are like, what the hell are you guys talking about? I have my iPhone.
That's why I thought it was so appropriate going back in my old age and watching what Darren was talking about, the original movie with Matthew Broderick. And he actually took the phone off his phone cradle and put it onto another phone cradle as the modem.
Yeah. The coolest thing about that movie was the remote control pterodactyl.
It's not even hitting you, dude. Why are you shooting it? It's not even hitting you.
Shot at me first.
But it's not even hitting. It's going around in circles. It's not even touching you.
That's because he won't shoot until he's got a line of sight.
Spin the other way, dude.
Well, they're not on the same plane, or else he would have ran into you.
Kind of hard to tell for 2D.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all the same plane, except for planets and everything else that's below you.
Well, he ran into you twice before you shot him. How does that happen?
90s computer graphics.
What's that? It's kind of hard to tell with 2D.
Sprites. Yeah.
Negative 4315.
No, it's 65 degrees.
Well, this ain't asteroids. The graphics are too good for that.
You should have been here for the original conversation.
I got it to the load. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Jaluja.
Yeah, we were talking about Abandonware. That's why the name of the stream is what it is.
I saw you were live. You went live shortly before I stopped. Name is Abandonware Ethics and Recommendations. Very cool.
And of course, we deviated from that discussion relatively quickly in the stream. So,
Well, that's
much
a Vilemike CNA
of
stream. So, yeah.
much to the chagrin of.
I did invite people that were watching my stream to come over and check out this channel, Mike. So hopefully you get some people that like what you do and check you out.
Damn it.
Hey, good morning, Daniel. How you doing, bud?
You got to be careful because I'm not running with shields. You got to wait for your ship to repair itself after each one. If you notice, there's a little rectangle or square in the middle of your ship.
No, I didn't see that, but I just saw the stuff on the side. So what? You got to like allocate stuff to all your systems? Okay.
And I'm choosing to run without shields so I can save my power for other things later on in the game.
That's definitely not an Atari game, I can tell you that.
No, this was an old Windows game.
95, apparently.
Older than Windows 95.
3.1.
It's funny. I watched some kids watching Blade Runner. Of course, in Blade Runner, all the big brands from the early 80s are prominently featured as mega corporations in that movie. And everybody keeps, they say, what's Atari? they pronounced it Atari.
Atari?
It's like Atari, yeah. And I'm like, okay, we're going to
Well, Atari is an actual game in Japan. It means go.
Yeah. And,
okay.
Yeah, I had to explain to them that was the Nintendo of that era. So.
No, one of the things that I always thought was funny was Atari was an American-made company. They chose the name Atari because it sounded Japanese.
Yeah.
Well, it did. It did. It was the name of a game in Japan called Go.
Well, I'm just saying. Later on, it was a Japanese company that bought Atari.
Yeah.
And they just kept the name.
Well, obviously, it's a Japanese name, and it had done well for itself until, the whole quarter thing phased out.
The problem with Atari was Americans weren't used to replacing something as an upgrade yet. So
no, yeah, you're right.
The kids that had an Atari 2600, and then the 5200 comes out, and they want that, and they said, "Well, what's wrong with the one you've already got?" The idea back then was you didn't replace your old.
If it ain't broke, you don't throw it away.
Exactly. Let me finish what I'm trying to say. Sorry. So if you had a black and white TV, you didn't replace it with a color TV until your black and white TV finally kicked the bucket, and then all of a sudden, okay, great, now you have a reason to go out and buy a color TV. They wouldn't just buy unless you were obviously a fairly wealthy person, but most families households and things weren't, and so the parents don't. This doesn't compute. You don't. What are you going to do with your other 2600 then? And if you don't sell it, was just going to just be in dust or whatever.
Even for me, I'm 47. Even to me nowadays, if it's not broke, don't fix it, don't replace it. If it works, you keep it, you use it. Mm-hmm. I guess that's just the way I was brought up, though.
And then this blows kids' minds, but I tell them that and then ColecoVision comes out, and you could play Atari 2600 games on the ColecoVision. They're like, no, that's not. They won't do that. I'm like, yeah, the rules back then and the standards and practices were different. No one had ever thought of having a cartridge that could only fit into one device. So it was.
Yeah. So then they decided to say, oh well, we have different game systems. Let's make different size cartridges that do the same things. Yeah.
Right.
One of the things I always thought was funny was similar to what you're talking about, Darren. A lot of the companies that made Intellivision games, they literally would produce the same exact Intellivision game, slap on a small adapter that expanded the base, and it would plug into an Atari 2600.
Yeah.
Well, wasn't Intellivision made by RCA?
No,
Yeah.
Intellivision at the time was owned by Mattel, Barbie company.
Right. I'm talking about the manufacturer, though.
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Okay. I thought that
Wonderful.
Intellivision was made by RCA. I might be wrong. I probably am, but that's just what I remember from back in the day. So
Here's an image that I just love. I'm gonna try to find a bigger version. So keep talking.
no, because Intellivision had the two controls, right? One in each hand, like the Atari had, right? Like your like for Atari, you would have used it for like the game like Grand Prix, but for Intellivision, that was the actual controllers for the whole game. You had two round buttons on the bottom, and then you had like these number pads up on top, type of things.
Yeah, I don't see RCA having anything to do with the original Intellivision. It was just Mattel Electronics, and then later on, it was part of INTV Corporation, which was, if you don't know anything, INTV was Intellivision.
Which is like I said, I could have been wrong about that. I just thought maybe RCA bought the rights later on down the road, made their version of it, or whatever.
Nope. Let's see. INTV owned it from 84 to 90, but I don't know who owns it now.
Okay, so I'm sharing an image. This is the back of a typical Marvel comic book that came out in 1982. And it's an advertisement for Frogger on all the different consoles that were available at the time. So you had Atari 5200, the TI 99 4A, Atari 400, 800, and 600 XL, Television, Commodore VIC-20, Atari 2600, Commodore 64, whatever this one guy's playing, and then you had ColecoVision. So it was, I told people that there was a time when you had a lot more than just 2 or 3 consoles to choose from.
Definitely. And Frogger was one of the bigger games out there back in the day. It just got remade, so it was definitely one of the bigger titles.
Yeah, and it was a maddening. It was the Wild West of consoles back then, and then things settled. Once the market imploded. I mean, a lot of people forget that right in the middle of the '80s, video games kind of went away for a couple of years, and that's when boys' toys went back to action figures, and that's when things like Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, and all that stuff were
G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe went to 6.5 inches from 10 inches.
And then later in the decade, with Nintendo came back and they had the licenses for Mario, and then we had it was back on, but there was that blip, that period of about 3 or 4 years right in the middle of the '80s where
Darren,
where consoles went away for a while.
I got to tell you what's really funny about that. What you're talking about is the video game crash of 1983.
Right.
The video game crash only lasted 9 months. It wasn't several years.
Right, but video games lost their supremacy when it came to boys genre toys.
Yes.
Is what I'm talking about. Action figures and cartoon comic book tie-ins took over for a while there. And
especially when
but it wasn't until '87 when Nintendo came into full effect that
Well, to be fair, when ET came out, that didn't help because they buried thousands of that game out in the Nevada desert.
That was '82.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Darren. When do you think that the NES was released in the United States?
Look, I know. I just know that in '86, '87 is when it became the hot Christmas gift in the United States. So that's where it obviously had been around for a little bit while longer, but it had to build up the niche audience. It had to drop in price to under $200.
Yeah, it did.
Like that. It wasn't until that Christmas that it took over and action figures started going the way receding again.
Yeah, 89 is when it hit my community, when everybody in my community had the money for it. So 89 was a big Christmas year for the Nintendo, the NES.
Well, I remember the first console I ever got was an Atari 7800. It was given to me by one of my mom's co-workers' sons who had just got his NES and was like, I don't need this Atari anymore, so he didn't give it to the poor kids. Because I say that because the coworker was actually one of my mom's bosses. It was she worked at a law firm, so it was one of the attorney's kids. So he could afford the new stuff.
I can believe that. I didn't get my Atari with like 50 games and 4 aftermarket controllers until he got a brand new Nintendo because his daddy worked at Dow. That's when I got my Atari 2600. So, yeah, I being from the lesser end of the economic spectrum, I understand that. So when the other kids got the new gaming systems, I got the older ones. I understand that. So
the other thing, of course, that you have to factor this in is one of the reasons why consoles did fall out of favor for a little while was because the best video game graphics were still at the ones at the arcade.
Oh yeah,
by far.
So you had you may have. I remember kids getting their ColecoVision, and then a year later, because ColecoVision had gone away, they're back at the gas station.
Arcade,
Well, we didn't even have arcades in my town. We just had gas stations that had 1 or 2 games up front.
Hey, better than nothing.
And they would just hang out there. It became teen hangouts wherever you had a cabinet like that.
If you got quarters, they got the machine cabinets. That's
quarters were the currency of the 80s kid. If you were made any sort of friendly bet with somebody,
it's quarters.
They wanted it in quarters.
You always had to save one so you could call your mama at the end of the day. Say, hey, I'm on my way home. I know the street lights are on. I'm on my way home. Right. I'll be home, mama. So you got to have that quarter to call your mom from the payphone.
Yeah, you pay. Let's say 2 kids had a friendly bet and one lost, and the other one had to pay like $5. You handed them a $5 bill. No. You got to convert.
No, you got quarters.
And it was hard to find change machines back then in small towns.
It didn't exist back then.
Yeah, I
know. I will say I loved the fact that my neighborhood 7-Eleven that actually had 3 arcades in the back was right next to a laundromat.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Laundromat. Yeah, they got
perfect place for it. Yeah.
This is the oldest console I own. This is a
Telstar, yeah.
This is a Coleco Telstar Colortron, the first video game in color, meaning instead of it being black, white, and gray, it was black, white, gray, red, green, blue, and yellow.
Yeah, the 3 primary colors.
4, well, because they had yellow in there too. Or they had red, green, and blue because of
the 3 primaries. You got to have 3 primaries.
Right.
But yellow was like an extra bonus color you got back then because the TVs have the red, green, blue, yellow pixels. Or sorry, red, green, blue pixels. Yeah. How it made yellow? RGB. Yeah.
It made yellow by putting blue and green together.
And
I don't know. That's purple. Never mind. I don't know.
What's funny about it is it's got it claims to have 4 different games. Yeah. I really doubt you can read it on there, but it's...
Wait, is that a standalone right there? It's got the game inside of it, Mike? Is that what you're saying? Or is that a controller that hooks up to something?
No, the 2 knobs on either side are the controllers for player 1 and player 2. That's all it was. That's the
controller. Okay, so it doesn't have a game chip inside of it.
No, it has a game chip inside it. That is the entirety of the console.
Okay. And then you plug this into your TV like you would one of those miniatures that came out with for the old consoles, right? You plug this into your TV.
In the middle of the screen is a little cable or a little port where you can plug an RF line to go from your computer.
Yeah, an RF cable, yeah.
That middle part is a speaker. That was how you got sound. They did not play the sound through the TV.
You played it through the middle part, which makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then to power it, it didn't plug into the wall. You had 2 9-volt batteries that were on either side. One would be underneath this controller. The other would be underneath the other side.
Yeah, to power the joysticks, probably.
Well, and the power to the unit. Yeah. But the games, I'm going to read off the games for you. Was
what was
tennis, highlight, handball, and Pong.
Pong. I had a Pong game that predated my Atari 2600 system. All you did is this little tiny box, probably 3 inches by 2 inches. That you plugged into the back of the TV.
Hold on. I want to finish what this is. Do you notice anything similar about those games?
No, because the only thing I had at the time was a little box, like I said, 2 inches by 3 inches, that plugged in the back of my TV. And then you needed...
it's a yes or no question.
No, that's totally...
Okay, all these games are the same fucking game.
Yeah, I kind of get it.
Just a different coat of paint. Yeah.
That's exactly what it was. The 4 colors would just create different backgrounds. You'd have a hockey field for Pong. You had a handball court looking thing for handball. It was 4 different versions of Pong with 4 different backgrounds, and they called it 4 games.
Well, when you're done sharing that travesty, I got another lost console too. A friend of mine wanted a 3DO.
A 3DO?
Which was a 700. It came out in 1993. It was a $700 console. Now, keep in mind that's in 1993 money. And I told him this is going. I said yes, I know. It seems like this powerful machine, but it's not going to.
It looks like a DVD player.
Yeah, and 3 years later, it was gone. I mean,
I wanted one for my collection because of that.
But a year and a half after they started is when they stopped making games for it. And he had saved up and he had bought one, and he had about 6 months where they were still making games for it, and then they announced discontinuing the games because the console. Every time you mentioned that, he's like,
was it Panasonic that made the 3DO, Darren, or was it another company?
It was a combination of Panasonic, Sanyo, Gold Star, and Creative Technology.
Okay.
Darren, this is the one I own.
Yeah.
Oh, that's like version 5.32 or something.
Yeah, that's a little bit cheaper because it has the
I remember that.
the pop-up tray.
Yeah. This is the one that was made in North Korea, not Japan.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, not North Korea, South Korea. I'm sorry, South Korea.
What is it with you in
North Korea wouldn't make anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have the circuits showing if it was made in the North.
But I remember
this version, Darren, I want for my collection just to add to my collection. I do
too. I do too. I've been looking for one of those for my collection. I know it's going to be a very long time before I can afford one. That looks like
one of my favorite ads for a video game that was only available on the 3DO was this Warriors of Might and Magic game. The commercial for it, they hired a bunch of porno actors.
Yes,
and they were
I played it.
They were acting out these scenes from a fantasy movie where this guy has this mask put on his face that doesn't come off, and it attracts monsters.
Have you played?
He's getting his revenge on the. Shut up! He's getting his revenge on the hot witch that put the mask on him. And it ends with him like breaking into his room or her room and him turning to face him. Ron.
Yeah, I've played the game series. It's awesome. I wish I had the first and the second games. I have the third and the fourth one. I still wish I had the first and the second one.
But that ad was so hilariously bad in terms of its production value. But it's still, I mean, because most of the ad is just these terrible porn actors acting these really cheesy scenes out, and very little actual game footage is shown in the trailer. It was very funny.
You think it's bad in the ads? You ought to play the game to watch what they say.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find that.
I've played Warriors of Might and Magic 1, 2, 3, and 4. I still have 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are on the PS1.
I know I've played some of them, but I don't remember which ones.
Oh yeah, here it is. This should be safe because it's only 34 seconds. I mean, it's an old ad. Here we go. I'm gonna share this here.
And Daniel's joined us. So how you doing, Daniel?
Hey, Daniel. Here we go. Hold on, Daniel. Before you answer that.
3DO, the hero, betrayed.
Mask him.
What the hell was that? Is that?
Seriously, if you think that's bad, you gotta see the ones for parts
Oh, it looks so cool.
3 and 4 that are on the PS1. They're even worse.
Aria! I just remember that.
PS1
Every
versions
commercial
of
break.
games I've played, or if not that, PS2.
I think
No,
it was
I've
available
got-
for both.
Yeah, I've got 3 and 4 for the PS1. I've got the actual discs for them here
Yeah.
with my PS1. I could do it. I could stream them for everybody. I just don't have a capture card to do it, which I'm working on.
But yeah, I just remember that ad every single commercial break when you're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine or Voyager had that ad in there. And, you know, it's like you do it by heart, like, Aria! You know, it's like,
Oh,
Oh, Calgon, take me away.
yeah, exactly.
Hi, Daniel. How you doing, bud?
Hi, sci-fi.
What's
So that was a PS2 game. That looks kind of cool.
Well, it was made by 3DO for their interactive game, but it also they licensed it out to PlayStation when obviously nobody was buying the 3DO.
yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that was the last like year and a half that the 3DO was something that you could even buy. Couldn't buy games for it anymore. But it was again $700 in 1993. Let's see what that. No.
Yeah, what
That
is
would
the
get you
equivalent
a-
of that? That's like
that would get you a
$1,500 now.
That would get you a CD player, $700 in the 80s.
No, a CD player that was like $3,000 back then.
Okay.
A laser disc player.
$700 in 1983 is the equivalent purchasing power of $1,473 in today's money.
Jesus, it was $1,500 back then.
Yeah, so that's a lot to ask for a game console that only had, I think, a library of like a dozen games or so initially. But,
Yeah.
you know,
Darren,
And it was basically a glorified DVD player.
yeah.
when I was going through what my dad, when my dad passed away, for some reason he had this file cabinet from every major purchase he had made since before I was born.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I'm going through it after a while. He bought a CD player in like 1982 before I was born
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
for $3,600 in
Ouch.
1982 money.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's how technology used to work. When it first came out, it would be expensive, and only the rich would buy it, and they'd pay it in a ridiculous amount, and that paid off the research and development. And then a year or two later, prices would drop to the point where the commoner, could buy that. I mean,
Yeah, the commoner, like us.
the commoner, yes, could afford it then at that point.
Us
And,
plebeians.
Yeah.
Poor
Yeah,
folks.
well,
Us minions, yes.
that was the sacrifice that the rich made for us. See, you have to look at it that way.
Well, what about Darren? Answer me this. Back in the day, my mom, she was proud of this unit. It was a big, wide unit, probably about 4 foot long. Panasonic had solid state was the thing, right? And I know my history. Solid state has been like a thing since like the 60s, right? Since they did away with vacuum tubes and everything went to transistors and all that good stuff. But this thing was labeled as solid state. It had 8-track cassette tape and it AM, FM, stereo, all that good stuff. It's made by Panasonic, made in silver, not like shiny silver, but just like muted silver of the day of the 80s. And she paid a fortune for this thing. And so I'm just wondering like what you would think about something like that. Nowadays, obviously nowadays we think, hey, that's a hunk of junk, but
Right. Well, I mean, the are you talking about like the Denon?
yeah, like the whole marketing aspect of it was like solid state, integrated type
Yeah,
stuff.
the Panasonic made a solid. Here, I even have a picture.
But it was a stereo. It was a stereo. It was
Give me
made
a
for
second,
music. It was a music device. Tapes, 8 tracks. I think it might have had a record player on it. I can't remember.
Well,
I just remember when
8-track.
she got rid of it. She gave it to me, and I took it downstairs. So.
Okay, I'm sharing an image of a Panasonic solid state portable.
Hold on.
It would
You're gonna have to give me a sec.
Okay, not a problem.
Urgent. If anybody cares, urgent. If anyone is keeping track, Bird just did Birdle 12 minutes ago.
Oh, nice. That's not urgent.
He did.
Well,
this
I had
morning.
to say something to shut Darren up because I just want to squeeze that in before he continues. That's all. I'm good. Go ahead. Continue.
He actually.
All
did
you have to
verbal
do is talk
several hours
normally.
ago.
Sorry, Darren. All you got to do is just.
Did you
talk normally,
literally
dude.
just use the N-word with me?
Huh?
Normal.
You just use
Yes.
the N-word with me. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
it's
Oh,
normal.
shit.
Normal
Sorry.
and LDG do not mix.
I said normally.
Okay, here's a vintage solid state portable radio, and
Oh.
presumably, and that's what you're.
Yeah, that would have been about the size that went into the 8-track player on this thing. This was like a
Right.
huge,
right.
like floor
It has
unit
the
type thing.
speaker. The speaker, like, the whole bottom part of that thing is like a speaker, or at least made to look like one. So yeah, solid
Where's the
state's been
antenna?
around for a while, but I mean, the problem was the solid state would have totally changed. I mean, you wouldn't have had Camelot Records if you had solid state. You wouldn't have had Musicland and stuff. So,
I
mean,
was talking, I think maybe she had bought this thing. It was maybe made in the 70s. She bought it in the early 80s. And by the time I got it, it said solid state, the best in technology, right? And this is the early 80s. What do I know, right? I'm just a
there
kid
is
back
such
then.
a thing. There is such a thing as being too far ahead of time. You know, it's like it's too far ahead of its own time. And sorry, I'm just scratching my back.
No, you're fine. But yeah, this thing was like literally 3.5, 4 foot wide. It did have a record player on it. Now that I remember, I used to have a collection of vinyls that I played on it. It had an 8-track player in it. Also, it had fine tuning for AM, FM, all the fine tuning of the bands. And yeah, I mean the thing it probably weighed 50 or 60 pounds. But it was solid state. It didn't have tubes. So it was definitely a product of its time. It wasn't a handheld unit by any means, but for the early 80s, for it to say, "Oh, the best in solid state technology," I was like, "Wow, if that's the best they can do, 60 pounds for something that big, you know." So yeah.
You got to remember the first IBM computer. Come on, a 32 megabyte memory was the size of basically 10 by 15 room.
Yeah, the early digital, it was like digital had come out and then it receded because there was no infrastructure to support it. And, I mean, yeah. So people still wanted to go to a store and buy an album. Yeah. That's part of the problem there, and until much later. But it was just too early yet.
I still like the idea of better, going out and buying an album sometimes.
Oh, I know. Me too. I miss going and buying any media at a store and taking it back home. It was so much more of an event when you got a movie, you'd bring it home, and watch it, or even if you just even renting to a degree.
I cannot remember the last time I actually bought a DVD or a Blu-ray. Seriously, I can't remember the last time I actually bought one.
Well, I buy almost every media I get now through a company like Amazon. I don't go to a store and buy them anymore. I mean, Best Buy doesn't sell anything anymore.
You don't go to Walmart and buy DVDs? I do that all the time.
Also,
I don't
screw
go to
Best
Walmart,
Buy.
period.
So.
Well, Best Buy is about 2 steps of being out of the business forever. So.
Well, they still have their appliances. The phone industry is what's keeping them up. Now, they replaced their whole, compared to where it was 20 years ago, they replaced their whole media floor section where they used to have their music and movies and stuff with support for your portable devices and things like that, and peripherals for that. So, people are still going to need a place to go get something in an emergency. My problem with Best Buy is that every time I go there because I need an emergency monitor or something, they either don't have what I need, or
my problem with Best Buy is they call it the Geek Squad, but I call it the Uneducated Squad.
That was the whole point of Radio Shack till they went out of business. It was the get-to-go place, emergency. Oh, I need this. I need a little transistor.
Yeah.
Oh, I need some extra cords. Oh, shit. Yeah. What happened to them?
I'll say
electronics.
this.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I'll just say this. Back in 2010, my mom needed an inline phone modem for her laptop. They sold her a MiFi internet.
Yeah.
I went to that store. I said, "How dumb are you? You don't know the difference between inline 56K modem and a MiFi program?
Yeah.
Really? Really? You sold her on a 2-year program that she has no use for when all she needed was this little $15 part you got right there on your shelf?"
Yeah. It's yeah, there's that too. But Radio Shack, somebody mentioned, that was for a different America. That was for in America.
That was for people that knew
let me
what they
finish what I'm
needed.
trying to say. Sci-fi. Let me finish what I'm trying to say.
Sorry, bud. Don't mean to cut you off, but yeah, I get you.
It's called baseline respect, and you're still trying to talk over me. Okay, it was for a different America, one in which you were expected that if something breaks, your first instinct and impulse was to fix it. So if you had a radio that broke, you would take it apart, you would find out what's wrong with it, and then you would replace that part. And we're just not in that state anymore. Now everything is about replacing something that goes busted, and nobody fixes anything anymore. That's what that was what killed Radio Shack, was a cultural change in the country.
I kind of agree with you. Although there is a hobby town near me, which is still owned by Radio Shack.
I mean, it will always be a niche of people who need that kind of stuff. But I mean, a lot of it is just, it's online now too.
Yeah.
But there, in bigger metropolitan areas, you're still going to need a place where somebody can, okay, I can't wait for it to be shipped to me. I got to have it today. I'm going to go over there and get one,
Well, plus, Radio Shack doesn't, because the way technology increased so much and there's so many small parts that people might need. Back in the, back when I was doing computer or video game repairs, I would need F1 and F2 micro fuses. Well, Radio Shack never had those. The only place I could get them was friggin' Fry's Electronics here in California, and they went out of business. Now the only place I can get them is buy them online in packs of like 50 to 200.
Yeah, as if you're a repair store. You buy them in bulk now. Yeah. You can't just buy one.
Well, usually I would, whatever I was working on needed 1 or 2 micro fuses. And the smallest package at the time that Fry's had was 7. And even then, I'd still lose 1 or 2 of them. Because we're talking about something the size of, Lincoln's nose on the penny. I mean, we're talking about something really small.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah, I think that's one of the reasons Radio Shack they tried to turn themselves into a toy store at one point. I remember walking into one and it was nothing but RC cars, video games.
Mm-hmm.
I remember RC cars.
Yeah, they were really trying to stay afloat at that point. Everybody remembers that magical Super Bowl ad they had where, the 80s called, they want their store back, and all these 80s icons like Hulk Hogan and Ponch from Chips and invaded the store and looted it. Remember that commercial? And they were playing, everybody's working for the weekend while they all come in. I mean, Mary Lou Retton was there, Slim Goodbody, all the pop culture 80s, and they all loaded the crap up in a DeLorean and drove away. And then they show you what the new Radio Shack looks like, and it looks like an Apple store.
Yeah.
Instead of having bins of transistors and things, old analog radios on the shelf. Yeah. Twisted Sister's lead singer is grabbing stuff off the shelves. It was a fun ad.
D. Snyder.
Yeah. And
sometimes a clever ad is good, but sometimes the end result still doesn't matter.
Right. I mean, it was their last gasp of, and I remember I watched that ad over and over on YouTube because I was trying to, figure out who everybody was, because some of them came from my vague childhood memories, right? Like Ponch, for example, Eric Estrada, and such. But, yeah. Part of me wanted to go with them when they left the store.
Now I'm just like, it went quiet real quick.
Yeah, part of me wanted to go with all those 80s icons when they left the store. I'm like, no, wait, take me with you. But,
Yeah, I wasn't as fond of the 80s because other than the fact that I was born in the 80s.
probably that's a reason. I was born in the 70s, so my
He's a kid.
memories of the 80s were more vivid. Yeah. I was age 7 through well, actually it would have been, let's see, I was born in 73, so in 1980 7. So 7 through 17 I was in the 80s. That was my that period. So I remember it very fondly. But I mean, I also recognize that there is such a thing as rose-tinted goggles, and I think about, would I really want to go back to the 80s, with none of the conveniences of what we have.
I honestly think that most people wouldn't actually want to go to
they'd visit it, but they wouldn't want to live there again. You know what I mean? It's like maybe I spend a weekend in the 80s. It's almost like going camping, It's like, pardon me.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think people realize how much those previous time periods sucked, especially for, other people.
Right. I mean, I was looking at something the other day. Do you remember early 80s? They had these tabletop arcade games, right? Like Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and stuff. They looked great, but the actual game in the screen was like, it was a blip game. It didn't have the graphics from the arcade game in it. It had like, it was like Atari football and stuff where the blip was moving. You had to imagine that was a player, and it's like now they can make one of those that has better graphics than the full size arcade game in the 80s, because we've got these tiny little screens on our iPhones and things that can do that. And I just remember thinking how high tech that was. I mean, you remember the at least the advertisements for the board game Dark Tower, right? With Orson Welles, where it was a board game that had this plastic tower in the front, a black tower, and it had screens on it that were supposed to indicate certain things, but they weren't video screens. They were actually, it was like a light board with slides and things. So it wasn't it wasn't as high tech as they wanted you to think it was, but that was all they could afford in that form factor, and keep the price down. So I mean, now I think they revived Dark Tower a couple of years ago, and the tower now has like capabilities of an iPhone in it for gaming. It's got an actual screen that can show you anything, stuff like that. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, I think that's a little bit before my time.
Okay. Yeah.
I was born in 84, so.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Then I'm talking, Dark Tower was probably an 83 to 85 thing, maybe. So yeah, I'm
when I showed the Coleco Telstar Colortron earlier, I tried, when I was showing my daughter that one, I was trying to explain to her that this is a console that's 6 years older than your dad. So, yeah, that's how young I am, even though I feel old when I talk about something that's 30 years old.
We can show commercials on this stream, so now pay attention to this 30-second ad with Orson Welles for this video, this board game with an electronic feature called Dark Tower, and
last night I journeyed backwards in time.
I remember this.
The world of Dark Tower. In this amazing game.
Oh my God, I remember this now too. I remember this commercial, seeing it in like a collection of old commercials.
The computer kept track, giving me secret information, pictures, sounds, surprises. Then, ahead of my opponent, I made my move. The battle was joined, and I was victorious. Dark Tower.
So, it was a board game, but it had that gimmick in the center, and now apparently they've got a new one that has a tower that does more stuff and stuff. But I mean, they wanted to combine some sort of electronic game experience with a board game experience, and I thought that was a special thing. But yeah, hiring Orson Welles was a big deal.
Well, I would say the same thing for the Transformers movie. I not only did I love that movie, I love the fact that Orson Welles is in it, even though he couldn't give a shit.
Oh, he was. That was his last performance before he died. That voice work he did for that movie.
Yeah, it was the last thing last movie he was in that was, it was the last one he recorded, not the last one that was released.
Okay.
There was one that he did before Transformers that ended up being released after Transformers.
Gotcha. So yeah, I remember somebody saying that he was. I think Flint Dille, the guy who was the director of the movie, said that he remembers being in the recording studio when Orson Welles arrived. He gets in front of the microphone. And he goes, "So I understand I'll be playing a planet."
Playing a toy.
Yeah, playing. Well, I don't know that. I don't remember a Unicron toy.
That
back
no,
then. I think they later made one, but yeah.
What Orson Welles said was, "I'm here to play a toy."
Yeah. Whatever. Flint Dille was talking about that, but and he had maybe five or six lines total. I mean, it was literally like 15 minutes worth of work for him. He doesn't remember shit.
No, it was he was kind of like out of it at the time. I don't know if it was because of medication or whatever it was, but
all he had to do is breathe heavy into a microphone and say a couple of lines. I am Unicron. That's all he had to do.
And despite everything, he did a fantastic job. I don't care if he didn't care.
Right. I mean, he was a professional back then. Yeah, it's like Leonard Nimoy. It was weird hearing him use an angry voice when he's playing Galvatron. Right? You were thinking, okay, he definitely doesn't. He sounds like Leonard Nimoy, but he doesn't sound like Spock. I thought that was kind of neat.
Well, not only that, one of the funniest bits about that role when he played Galvatron was, of course, when the series came back for season 3, they weren't going to have Leonard Nimoy revoice Galvatron. He would have cost too much. So they got a sound-alike, not a sound-alike. They actually went back to Frank Welker to do the voice.
Yeah, he did the voice, and he did a different voice than he did for Megatron too. It was less hissy.
One of the things that was funny about that was also about the time that Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan was released.
Yeah.
And Frank Welker provides the voice of young Spock in Search for Spock.
Yeah.
So he does the screaming, he does the sounds that Spock makes. He's not playing the character, he's doing the ADR for it.
Right.
So the big joke about it was Frank Welker keeps taking over Leonard Nimoy's roles. He took over Spock, he took over Galvatron, he took over a third one, and I can't remember what it was, but it was kind of a joke at the time.
Yeah. Fun joke too, but it was funny because I was reading up on that whole time when Marvel Productions had that partnership with Hasbro and they were producing absolute gold. I mean, it was a little bit, we know what they were doing. I mean, when Hasbro came to Marvel and said, we want to dust off G.I. Joe and kind of modernize it, Marvel took basically S.H.I.E.L.D. and just, their version of G.I. Joe was that G.I. Joe was the name of a S.H.I.E.L.D.-like organization. They just had a more colorful version. And they took Hydra from the comics and just changed their name to Cobra. And there was all kinds of, if you looked at like old school Cobra Commander versus the Supreme Hydra in the S.H.I.E.L.D. comics, they look identical, except, one's blue and one's green. And but it worked. I mean, G.I. Joe was one of those properties where kids wanted to collect them all, because they love the characters so much.
And also, to be fair, I know it was the plastic shortage is the reason they did it, but when they switched to the 3.5-inch figures, that allowed for a lot more vehicles and play sets to be made for them that could be purchased by the average person.
Yeah,
their kids.
The whole
that was a big part of it.
Yeah, the whole premise behind G.I. Joe prior to this was basically G.I. Joe was Barbie. he was the generic nickname of a guy who happened to be in the service, and then he would come in whatever uniform you wanted. It was the same character repeated over throughout the toy line typically. But they added a story. They added this. They painted this picture, this world, and it was real fun. I remember watching. They had the GI Joe original 5-episode cartoon that ran as a miniseries on WGN in Chicago. It was syndicated, and it was where GI Joe and Cobra were both racing to collect 3 cataclysmic elements for a death ray.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was for the time, for a children's after school cartoon. It took itself seriously, and it really sucked you in to the story. There you go. There's an interactive VCR game, board game.
Yeah, I was gonna say I own this one.
Yeah.
I actually have this one too.
But no one ever wants to play it.
I played it once. Matter of fact, I remember buying this at Toys R Us, and they had a wall stack of them. You remember Toys R Us would have that one side wall where all the board games were at, and you would just have like 50 freaking battleships, 50 all the board games just stacked up. Yeah, I actually remember picking this out.
No,
Played
I
it once with my family.
Swap meet.
Never touched it again.
The only thing I did was me and the elder vile child went through, opened it up because it was already open, but we opened it up to make sure everything was there, put everything back, and haven't touched it since. And I've probably had this for 10 years. I want to play it, but I can't find anyone who wants to play it.
All right, let's do it, Mike. Let's do it.
You know what's funny though? I want to get back real briefly to the Hasbro Marvel partnership. You know what broke it, right? Was Marvel had created for both Transformers and GI Joe these wonderful narratives for their toys to sell toys with, and then something happened. The Care Bears movie came out, and it became this huge hit. It was
Care Bears stare.
Yeah. Disney had released a cartoon and it bombed, but Care Bears was huge.
Care Bears blew up.
Yeah, and so Marvel's and Hasbro begin exploring the idea of the theatrical release, and so Marvel does what Marvel does. They create drama and they kill off Optimus Prime in this movie, and it was a disaster. They had first of all, Transformers the movie, the animated movie, didn't really
but their cartoon.
But the people that he did go to see it raised holy hell because their kids were crying on the way home from seeing the movie. Sorry kids, all your toys are dead, but here's some new ones that don't look as cool. It was
pretty much
situation. And they were about to release G.I. Joe the movie, and at the last minute, because in the G.I. Joe the movie, Duke, the original leader of G.I. Joe, is supposed to get killed by one of Serpentor's staff. Staff.
He is supposed to get ended. Yep.
And they changed the color of the blood to make it not look like blood, and then they actually got Susie Blue to come back into the studio and throw in some lines that suggested that he hadn't died, that he actually went into a coma.
Which sounded totally off from the rest of the movie, by the way.
Right, it did. Yeah. And then at the very end, the last second before they fade to dark, hey, we just got word, Duke's out of his coma, he's gonna be fine. It's like,
we just got word he's gonna be fine. Oh shit! Come back next week for a whole new episode.
Hey guys!
Right as they fled to black. Yeah.
Hey guys, I got a question for you, Yvette. If she's still listening to the chat, Yvette, can you time it if you're in the chat? I got a question for you. Can you can call US and send US text messages on your phone service? Correct? If you're in the chat, please type yes or no.
Okay, one more thing I want to talk about.
Just use the interweb.
The movies, G.I. Joe and Transformers, did so terribly that Hasbro essentially fired Marvel Productions, and that's why subsequent cartoons were made by a company called DiC.
DiC. DiC.
Yes. Quit interrupting me. And
sorry, I just remember that from my childhood.
And the cartoon that they were most known for at the time was a ripoff of both G.I. Joe and Transformers called Mask.
Yes, I had the Mask toy.
Yes. And so they of course got the G.I. Joe Transformers license to do cartoons and such, and it was all because Marvel was literally too good at its job. They weren't. They were great at selling comic books because that's all about drama. But selling a toy line is different. And
by the way, Deke did do a good job with the cartoon for Mass, such that they brought out another G.I. Joe cartoon for Saturday mornings after that. They did quite well, actually.
Yeah,
if I remember right.
But it was Saturday morning and not after school.
Right, it was Saturday morning. That's true.
Yeah. Because you don't have to make as many cartoons if it's a Saturday morning cartoon as opposed to a weekday.
But they Saturday morning they knew they had the kids' attention, and by that time Deke had done such a good job with the Mask franchise that when G.I. Joe came out, they already knew what they were doing, so they made a heck of a cartoon for the kids back in the day. So
yeah, I hated Mask. I thought
I can't say I hated it.
I thought the vehicles were stupid. I mean, first of all, a Lamborghini with gull-wing doors. Wings.
Hey, you got to love the dune buggy with the wings that shoot out.
Not a Lamborghini.
Or whatever it was. It was, But my favorite, the only cool vehicle was the motorcycle that turned into a gyrocopter. The dumbest one was the Jeep that had a speedboat that would pop out of it.
Oh, it did right on the top of it.
When in the hell are you going to need to use that? I mean, it's like you have to have. They had to be near water.
I'm glad my parents bought me the dune buggy that had the wings that shot out from under it, and it shot missiles out of the back tires.
Yeah, the semi that had the smokestacks that came down and actually were like laser cannons. That was dumb too.
Okay,
their headquarters was a gas station.
Since we're talking about it. I made, what was it? It was one of the Kinder Egg videos. If you look at the bottom left of the thumbnail, there's a character of Mask where it says, I don't think anyone's going to get this reference because I made a small Mask reference in the Kinder video about that character's vehicle.
Well, it depends. Which vehicle was it, and was it very specific?
I can't remember it. I made the fucking video. Hold on, let me.
Because there was the movie at the same time that had Cher called Mask. So
it was Mask the cartoon and toy line.
Right. That was another ill-fated thing about it because Mask swept all the awards that year, and the media. If you'd had Google back then and you typed in Mask, you wouldn't get anything about the cartoon. You'd have got Eric Stoltz in Elephant Man makeup.
Yep.
And Sam Elliott and Cher and stuff.
And the thing, Eric Stoltz was supposed to be Marty McFly.
What?
Yes.
Come on.
Well, he originally was Marty McFly. He was, but he wasn't. He didn't have any comedic timing.
He was too serious in the role.
Yeah. So it wouldn't have been the same movie if he'd been in it. But
they shot about a quarter of the movie until they recast him with Michael J. Fox.
And with Michael J. Fox shooting Family Ties at the time, they were literally taking him off the set of Family Ties to the to the Back to the Future set, and he was sleeping, and then they wake him up. He'd shoot his scenes without Christopher Lloyd, they put everything in post up to the point to where Eric Stoltz had stopped shooting, and then they started shooting together. So, yeah, it was very interesting to watch that documentary.
Okay, I had to go through the video real quick. The Kinder toy in that video was a truck that gets lit. That if you can rotate the chassis outwards and it lifts it up by like a lot for the size of the toy. And it's very similar to one of the Mask toys that just basically is a tow truck that pops up real tall as its gimmick. That's why I used that character on the thumbnail.
Ah, very cool. I see it now.
But yeah, I put the link to the video. Go watch it because it's only got 26 views.
Go watch it, peeps. And hey, if you're looking for retro games, go check out Vilemike's eBay page, SD Game Swap.
Less video games, even though it's still called Game Swap, than it is random nerd shit now.
Well, you know, I'm trying to help you out, bud.
Yeah, I picked up some PS3 games a couple weeks ago, and I'm still too lazy to post everything. I still got to post all the fucking records.
I still need some GameCube games, some original Xbox games, PS1 games, PS2 games. So yeah, I still need all the old stuff. Let me know what you get a hold of.
It'll be on there eventually once I stop being lazy or stop working so goddamn much.
Yep, no problem. I still got to work towards getting a capture card that's actually gonna show them the right way on here. So.
One of the things that pisses me off is my company is making some major changes that are just adding to my issues, and it's like they're trying to do it. It's like, oh, we're trying to be more fair and more, keep track of all your time exactly. And all it's doing is making it so we actually have to work longer.
Oh, I see. So they want to fuck shit up for themselves and pass it on to you, of course.
Basically, yeah. And one of the things is they're now going to crack down on it. If a project takes us, it says it's supposed to take us 30 minutes and it takes us more than 10 minutes longer than the estimated time, we have to let our supervisor know.
Why? Can't you just write it down and document it somewhere?
We already did that in 2 locations. Now we have to let our supervisor know in addition. So now,
yeah, but do you have a supervisor though? Because last I knew, you went from location to location, so you have a supervisor on every site.
I have a supervisor, but she doesn't even live in the same state as I do.
Yeah. So how the hell does that work?
Well, I got to send her an email or a text message, which means I now have to add that time it takes me to write the email or text message and, reading the response to all my times.
Well, it took me 30 seconds to write it and an hour and a half to get a response.
But it's just getting ridiculous to the point where, some stores, especially early in the week, everything takes longer than it does the rest of the week because you're figuring out what changes each client wants to be made.
Ain't that bad? You can go and do your job. It takes you longer to hear from your boss to tell you how to do your job, even though you knew how to do it. What the hell sense does that make? It don't make none to me.
So I've begun doing a little bit of malicious compliance.
You've been pulling a Scotty, haven't you?
Well, what I mean is, say I go to store 1 and I have projects A, B, C, D, E, and F. After project A, if it goes over, because they all go over on the first day of the week, I say project A went over at store 1. Then 20 minutes later, project 2 went 10 minutes over on store 1.
Especially at local bodegas like mine, where the person that has to set up the display comes in and you got the locals coming in that won't get the F out of your way.
Yeah, it's the Hot Wheels Mania.
Basically, I'm spending an extra 30 minutes a day writing all these text messages. And of course, to make sure it's all up and there's a full paper trail, I write a text message out, I send it out, then I write an email CCing every single person that's related to the project. And I always put in accordance with the text message I already sent.
There you go. That's all you can do.
So I'm doing it twice just to annoy every single person in the pipeline.
Good.
And I'm doing it for every project at that store.
Good. They deserve it. That's what they wanted. That's what they get.
And then I'm charging them an extra half an hour of time for the time I'm spending doing all this
Exactly.
crap.
You had to spend your time writing the crap out. You got to get paid for it.
So as of right now, let's take Monday, for example. Monday, I used to work 8 hours, if maybe a little over 8 hours of actual work, not including all these emails or anything like that, and drive time.
Yep.
Now I worked about 6.5 hours with an hour of
writing stuff out. Yeah.
Writing stuff out. So I'm still working 8 hours, but I'm only doing the actual job for 6.5.
Yeah, because you got to get paid for writing that stuff out. I wouldn't, not get paid for it. So yeah, kudos to you.
But it's to me, I don't know.
It's messed up. I know. Trust me. I know. That's why I'm glad I don't work for corporations. I work for local family-owned businesses, and that's exactly why right there. I don't know if I can handle it with the I wouldn't say enthusiasm, but the how should I put this? Yeah, I wouldn't be so closed-mouthed about it and just put it in my paperwork. I'd say something to somebody. So I'm glad it's you that's putting it into writing what's going on instead of me, because I just would say something to somebody. So.
I completely forgot about this. In the game I'm playing, the cloaking device, doesn't that kind of look like the probe from Star Trek 4?
No, it's elongated with the tube coming out, with the ball coming out. Yeah, you got the elongated
Well, there's
tube.
no ball, but I'm just saying, in my mind, that looks like the probe.
How the hell do you see a whale probe in it? Is what I want.
Because the whale probe had all the little lines across it.
But it's dark and long. That's white and brown. I don't get it.
Let's talk about something non-pornographic.
Oh, wait, you're talking over on the side. Never mind, my bad.
We're not talking about penises. We're talking about on the ship, dude.
I forgot Mike had the whole thing on the side there. I was looking at the actual game screen.
Oh, here, hold on. I know my ship's going crazy. Hold on.
Hey. I need more coffee. I need more coffee.
The space media this week said that they found a donut-shaped rock on Mars, and they have a picture of it, and people are comparing it to the Guardian of Forever now.
Yeah, Carl's home.
Really? Because I remember back when, what was it, Viking or Voyager, one of them back in the 70s, found a face for the first time. Oh, it's a space face.
Well, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No, yeah.
Thanks for that.
But it was on Mars, so yeah, it kind of had something to do with that.
Yeah, but in this case, it's just because it's on another planet and it's a ring-shaped rock. It's not like we don't have those on the frickin' Earth already.
A donut-shaped rock. I mean, but everybody, there's. It's funny that if you're a conspiracy guy like me, you're thinking, wow, first they show us a version of Pluto that actually has the dog Pluto on it, and now they're showing us this.
The dog Pluto. Did it have a dog bone around its neck?
Huh?
I'm glad that Sci-Fi is here to take over for LDG.
Yes. Doesn't everybody like a inadvertent comment once in a while? Yes. Hold on. I got to buzz the Mrs. Navy for a second. Hold on.
Got a buzz going on. Wake and bake. Hey.
You always have a buzz going on.
Might be easier to see the screen now.
Except when I'm asleep. Go to the government planets. Government planets. Oh, you got to go to Earth. Okay.
Sorry.
The first part of this game takes place in a solar system that is not Earth.
I'm back. Who said what about me now? Can I rebut whatever anybody said?
No. It has to be
No, what?
This is the solar system that it takes place in. Notice it's got a whole bunch more planets.
Yep. Yeah, who'd have thunk?
Is that Trappist system? The 7?
No.
Oh.
And this is even further zoomed out where you can see that there's actually another star. Like if you look in the center of it,
it's a binary system. It's not binar. The suns are it's binary, not binary. The suns are too yellow to be binar. They're binary.
Sorry. Binary star system.
Oh fuck!
Why are all the stars the same color?
They're not. You see the blue ones in the background? Yeah,
they're all blue. I'm like, come on, they can't all be hot.
They cannot all be moving away at the same speed, can they? What?
I know.
What do you expect?
You'd think a video game would know about red and blue shift.
Jeez. Discuss what? Discuss what? Oh, okay.
The rescue. What rescue?
anybody else see that proof of concept trailer they did for a new? I guess it's a revival of Small Soldiers.
Which
Really?
small soldiers?
Seriously?
The action figure movie with Phil Hartman.
no.
There's a trailer right now on YouTube. It debuted about 7 days ago, and it's like a reimagining of Small Soldiers, but we don't know if it's going to be a game or a movie or what. Probably a game, but you know.
Better be a game and not a movie. I remember when that stuff hit the Burger King shelves on the toy line. That was awful.
They got rid of the Gorgonites and replaced them with something called the Necronites or something. So there's actual like villains now. So that it seems like they're trying to do something different than what the movie did. But the update they have for Chip Hazard, which is a different character, looks androgynous. It looks like you can't tell if that's supposed to be a female character or a male character. So it's kind of, I guess that's in keeping with current year, but you know.
Have you seen the new Superwoman toy?
No.
Yeah, let me show you. It's kind of hilarious. Let me find it here. Pedro J pointed it out. I'm like, holy shit, he's right.
If I'm playing Skyrim, it's very difficult because Skyrim sort of takes over your computer, so you have to describe it to me.
Sorry. Go to the post.
Put it up.
God damn it! I forgot I muted myself, and I was talking the entire time.
God damn her.
The new Supergirl toy.
Have you put it up yet?
Not yet. The new Supergirl toy, as soon as Mike gets a chance to share.
Did you get it up yet? That's what she asked.
I took that pill an hour ago.
Okay, that's not exactly a toy. That's actually a collectible statue, but okay. Yeah, it's made by the same people that did the Tobey Maguire one. And it's for the Supergirl that in the Flash movie, which bombed.
Yeah, it looks just like Tom Holland.
That looks like the 2000 Supergirl. Everybody remember the one from like the 90s? She was like a blonde with hair down to the middle of her back. That's Supergirl to me. I don't know.
Yeah, she was in the Supergirl TV show as Kara's mother.
The Helen Slater Supergirl is always the one that I like the best because she was the most angelic. But this new one was crap. They're all based on various versions of the character from the comics, but
she's based on a Supergirl Tomorrow comic book, which I'm glad James Gunn did that. But I really want to see the R-rated version that got cut out of her smashing heads.
Isn't that like saying you'd rather see Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman versus Halle Berry? I don't know.
Wow.
She ain't coming back. I mean, Sasha Kaye is not coming back as Supergirl.
Who?
No.
Sasha Kaye?
I don't even know who that is. That's talking about Michelle Pfeiffer and Halle Berry.
It's the one you're looking at, sci-fi. Yeah, she's not coming back because her Supergirl isn't a one-time deal.
I'm just surprised they decided to use Supergirl instead of Power Girl if they were going to change the character that much.
People have been too distracted from you know what to pay attention to the
script. To be fair, Power Girl hasn't worn the peekaboo on her chest in about 20 years worth of continuity. So,
from what I've seen, that Power Girl ain't got the chest to have something on it. So.
That was her power, distraction.
Yeah, I've already got to the point where you're basically traveling to the other star system, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go and destroy more stuff to get more power.
I have the power.
Because as soon as you go to the other star system, one, it takes you forever if you're traveling at this speed. Or you can dump a shitload of power into your engines and use up the power for that. But I don't like using up the power. I want to save it for shields.
You know, I'm surprised you haven't had your little display penis.
You're not going to use the He-Man theme. I have the power. Speaking of cheesy 80s movies,
What the hell?
Masters of the Universe is a cheesy 80s.
Oh my
Hey,
gosh.
the Filmation cartoon
What the hell?
mangled that IP.
Oh, I like the cartoon. I grew up on the cartoon, but the movie, the live action movie with
the
the
hell's going
Wonder
on?
was awful.
I thought the cartoon was shit because my experience with He-Man were the original storybooks that came with the
Oh
figures.
yeah,
guys
the little
saying
comics that
They
used
were,
to come with them.
and they weren't comics. They were storybooks initially.
Well,
They became comics later, but the material was much more serious. It was much more based off of fantasy art from the 70s and 80s.
You got a glitch.
absolutely, and I agree with you, Darren. I'm just saying, compared to the cartoons, which as a kid growing up, I grew up on the He-Man cartoons. The movie was just it was horrific.
God damn it. I can't kill these guys because they're glitching out on me.
Yeah, you got a glitch, man.
An old 1992, 1993 era game glitching out? I don't believe
Wow. What's that text?
it. What the hell?
The whale probe again. That's
the cloaking device, and I got to go to it every time I want to turn on the cloaking device. Don't all y'all shut up at once.
Okay. Who's else trying to shut up now?
Nope, it's completely glitching on me.
Jeez. Go figure.
Yeah.
All right, in
So
that case, we'll
apparently
just do the long wait.
I was gonna
Wait
say,
to, Yeah, it literally transported me from over to that ship group of 3 ships to here, like an instantaneous teleport. Sorry, go ahead.
people are getting upset with Bethesda again, this time because apparently Starfield, which is going to come out in August, is AMD. It is exclusive with AMD as far as its special features go. So it's not going to have DLSS because that's an NVIDIA thing. It'll have the AMD equivalent of it. So people are upset about that. And apparently, they're also upset that the console version of Starfield is going to be relegated to 30 frames per second.
Yeah, I've also heard people are pissed because some character's ugly, and I don't understand what the hell's going on with that.
That's not in Starfield, though. That's
Oh, I thought that was. Sorry. I don't care that much, to be honest. Nope.
Yeah.
I
But
can't kill
being a
anybody.
Bethesda fan,
Wow, what a
Being a
glitch.
being a Bethesda fanboy.
That's a glitch, man. Look at that.
I know.
Jeez.
So I can't attack anybody now. So I'm just going to run away and go ahead and go to the next system, but it's going to take forever to get there. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for a second, I thought cargo said Karoga.
But honestly, Bethesda has to make sure that Starfield, they don't do their usual thing where they release it full of bugs and the fan base makes patches for it and mods for it, because they can't get away with that shit anymore. Thanks to Fallout 76, all the goodwill got exhausted.
Yeah, Fallout 76, I was so hyped up for, but after day one, I haven't cared. And because they keep changing the storyline, it's like, I'm going to miss all the storyline stuff because you guys didn't have a working fucking game at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bother playing it.
I'm curious. I would love to play around with the map, but the map is the only thing that I'd be interested in. But in Bethesda's defense, and it's hard to defend them, but I will say one thing, and that is that the studio that actually did Fallout 76 was a brand new studio they acquired that had never worked with the engine before, and that was part of the problem. All of the original bugs from Fallout 4 were in Fallout 76, so that's the reason for that. They weren't aware, and apparently they didn't share a lot of information with the studio. It almost like they were setting them up for failure. But my thing is that it's an asset flip. Obviously, there's not a lot of new things in Fallout. It's basically more of Fallout 4 just redistributed and reorganized into Appalachia. It doesn't progress the story of Fallout as much as a single player RPG would. So, yeah.
Well, I'm also worried about how they're going to try to explain the fact that this takes place so soon after the apocalypse, essentially, because Fallout 3 takes place almost 200 years after the bombs, is not that far away from West Virginia.
Right.
And yet no infrastructure has been built since then.
Yeah. And it's I mean, Appalachia, yes, I get it. It's remote, it's somewhat, isolated. I mean, West Virginia itself doesn't have a city has more than 60,000 people in it in real life. I understand that. But it's almost like we don't know if this is even going to be in continuity. It might be a side continuity, kind of like the way Elder Scrolls Online is regarded by Bethesda. Bethesda doesn't make Elder Scrolls Online. ZeniMax, their parent company, does, and they can't innovate the story of Fallout very much in Elder Scrolls Online, because they're basically have to wait for Bethesda to come up with something for a single player game, and then they create their own spin or iteration of it in their game. That makes sense. It's like Elder Scrolls Online cannot establish anything in Elder Scrolls lore. It can only react to what's established in Elder Scrolls lore by Bethesda in their own single player games.
I don't even know when Elder Scrolls Online is supposed to take place, to be honest.
It takes place approximately 1,000 years before the events in Skyrim. It takes place at the beginning of the Second Era.
Okay, but is that before or after Nightfall or Arena?
It's after Arena. It's after Arena, and it's after Elder Scrolls 2, but not. But it's before 3 and 4 and 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and a lot of what they do is just a rehash of what they've already done in the single player games. For example, the original main quest for Elder Scrolls Online was practically the same storyline from Oblivion. It was just a different Daedric prince, and his portals were vertical instead of horizontal. He was trying to invade Nirn. So, a lot of people thought that was bullshit, but, people wanted more Elder Scrolls, and what they got is this, like, Elder Scrolls is like basically R-rated, but Elder Scrolls Online is PG-13 at best, so there's not a lot of scandalous stuff. It's kind of sugar-coated. Yeah.
Sci-Fi in the private chat corrected me. Yeah, I said Nightfall. It's Daggerfall.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just wanted to admit that I was wrong. But
if you were LDG, I would have said something.
God damn it.
Yeah.
As soon as I tried to think another joke, you talked, Darren.
Sorry, yeah, Morgan Freeman. I said Morgan Freeman earlier. That's a little bit more understandable. If you were LDG, I would have said something, but I knew what you were talking about.
Well, let's say Nightfall and Daggerfall are not exactly that far apart, just like Morgan and Gordon.
Right. They rhyme almost. Muddled rhyme.
They're not that far apart, folks.
Well, for the longest time, I've been when I want to say Carl Urban, the guy who plays McCoy on the JJ films. I've been saying Keith Urban.
He can't see
green-blooded hobgoblin.
Yeah, exactly. And people have to say, I think you mean Carl Urban. Yes, of course. I'm sorry.
I'm not even a country fan, and I got that joke. That's funny. I don't care who you are.
You just been watching Grand Ole Opry or Hee Haw.
Hee-haw. Yeah, I watch it all the time as a kid. I didn't have a choice though.
Okay. You mentioned Hee Haw that has an automatic reaction, a visceral automatic reaction.
It does.
He goes into like a seizure and starts reciting everything his memory can dig up about Hee Haw.
You know what,
spontaneously.
Darren? See,
yes?
you mentioned something that you think I might know, and Darren goes into automatic spasmic reaction because he thinks, "Oh my gosh, Sci-Fi's going to say something," and I didn't. So.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying it's something.
I'm saying it's bad. God damn it. Now everything's going crazy. All right, screw it. I'll bring up the game again later once I get to a certain point.
That really did glitch bad.
Right now, I'm at the point where it's going to take like several hours for me to get to the next part of the game.
Hours? Wow. Are you playing Skyrim?
If I remember correctly, it took me like
Eve?
7 hours to get to the next part of the game.
Oh, you're playing Eve.
No, I'm playing Solar Wind. The whole thing.
I know, I'm just fucking with
Yeah, he's playing on E. Yeah, he's playing on E a lot here.
No, he's playing Eve, the game with extra 2 hours.
Eve Online.
Yeah, where it takes 2 hours to go from one system to another. Yeah, I gave up on that a while ago.
Try to keep up, Sci-Fi. Try to keep up.
Well, as I said, the part of that game is you're supposed to use the hyperdrive to get everywhere, but the problem is the hyperdrive will eat up all your power, so you can't power your shields, weapons, or anything.
It's an Elder Scrolls game. You don't need hyperdrive and all that.
I think Sci-Fi is getting confused. We got two different people playing two different games.
You're talking about two different games.
And his wires are getting crossed very badly.
Yes, you're crossing my wires. Don't cross my wires. That's not. You wouldn't like me when you cross my wires.
Don't cross.
We don't like you anyway. What are you talking about?
Well, hey, at least one of us is honest.
I didn't do both.
I would say two of us, but I haven't said how I felt.
I feel with my hands.
Don't we all?
And my feet when I'm in the ocean.
Unfortunately, you reminded me of an 90s song called Walk on the Ocean by Toad Red Sparkman.
Walk on the ocean.
On the ocean.
You know where they got their name?
No, enlighten me, because I honestly don't.
Toad the Wet Sprocket gets their name from a line in a Monty Python sketch where Eric Idle is a newscaster, and he mentions a story that's coming up later about the member of a band who plays lead electric triangle for Toad the Wet Sprocket, and that's where they got the name from.
Nice.
The band. It's a Monty Python reference.
Nice. I like that. I like it even more now. Thank you, Darren.
Well, today I learned that as well. Okay, Darren, what type of character are you actually playing as? Are you just like what weapons are you focusing on?
Crossbow, and melee with shield.
All right, so crossbow means you're not playing the original base game because they didn't have crossbows.
But he says Dragon Guard.
When you play this game and you already have all of the DLCs merge with the main game. So I had access to the crossbow immediately on starting the character. And
okay.
Some of us like the crossbow a little bit better than the bow.
It looks like you're still wearing Dragonborn armor.
This is just I happen to like this armor for its looks, but I'll probably change it later. Got the steel helmet.
Now, I used to watch a guy who do the various glitches for Skyrim and other thing, and one of the things he did in this game is he basically picked, because there's like one or two of the forks you can use as a weapon, and it's literally just a fork.
Right.
And he had it enchanted up the wazoo with so many enchantments and extra bonus damage that he'd poke someone with a fork and they'd go flying.
Yeah.
But did it say, I stuck my fork on you and you're done? That would have been awesome.
You gotta love a game that can do stuff like that, even if it's completely breaks the immersion.
Yeah, the glitches in the game, and also the things that are supposed to be there, like when a giant hits the ground in front of you with his bone club and knocks you into the sky.
Really? You still have that problem in Skyrim? I never had that.
That is, that's not a problem. That's actually what's supposed to happen occasionally. It's the idea that the giants are that powerful, and then of course when you kill one, it just feels that much better.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I go to their camps all the time. I basically one hit them. So
later in the game when you're really powerful, you can do that shit.
I am like level 48. But
when
I
hit level 80. There are things that I have yet to do in this game, even though it's been around for 12 years. And like last night, I did something I've never done before. I collected all of the gems of Baron Zaya and reconstructed the mask of Baron Zaya.
Oh, you did? Yes, I did that a few years ago. What did you think about it?
Yeah, and it was a fun little quest, and it's mostly part of the obviously the Dark Brotherhood, but.
It gets rid of a hell of a lot of space out of your inventory. I'll tell you that.
Well, they don't weigh anything, but the thing is,
but they take up inventory space.
Only in one category, but anyway, they do give you a really good passive effect where you find more gems and more high-ranking gems.
They do give you a nice passive, yes.
Yeah. So. I thought that was neat. That there's something else I'm going to do eventually here. I just thought I'd do. For example, okay, so Serana, right after the events of Dragonborn, you can there's a quest you can give her where she actually becomes human. She gives
the vampirist becomes human.
Yeah, she gives up her vampirism. She leaves to go see Phalion and Morthal, and then about three days later, she's back in the Dawnguard Keep, and her eyes are relatively normal. All it really does all it does is really change her cosmetically.
Her
because
appearance,
she's still a necromancer. She's still
of the dark arts,
right? And she even still has her vampire drain ability, but she doesn't look like a vampire anymore.
She's not a physical vampire.
And that's an interesting thing that I never know you could do. And
You just taught me something about the game. That's interesting.
How old are you guys now? Check this out.
I was today years old when I realized these old broads had a cock pan. What?
Cake pan.
Cock cake pan. What?
It's a peanut-shaped cake pan on the wall.
Thank you for that.
Funny, the same exact one was in WandaVision in one of the commercials.
Younger than them because I didn't even pay attention to it till you said something.
And I don't believe it's actually a cock, because I believe my grandparents had one too. And they would definitely not have had a cock.
In their kitchen on the wall.
My grandparents were the type of people that wouldn't even let their kids watch Bewitched because it featured witchcraft and you would go to hell.
Oh my gosh.
You'd be banished to the town that was never found.
No, I'm not kidding. My grandparents would not
I
let
Dream of
my
Jeannie?
mother watch I Dream of Jeannie because jinns were part of Islam, and Islam is a devil religion.
See, the one thing I love about my family is they never got that far into the religious aspects of shows. Even back then, they were just like, "Hey, it's a good show. Let's laugh at it. Then we can all go to bed, go to church on Sunday, and praise Jesus." So yeah, hooray for them.
Oh, hey guys, since Tuesday is the 4th of July, I thought you guys should check this out. Let me know when you're. Oh, okay.
Yeah, what you got here, bud?
I don't know what's going on. What does that mean?
Let's light ice on fire.
That's a glass jar.
This one's funny. He gets
Oh
the
shit! Did that
fake car.
motherfucker get ran over?
The fake car.
Yes, it's fake, but it was still funny.
It's still funny. That motherfucker got ran the fuck over.
I swear I showed this on your show like months ago.
You did not show that to me, LD. No, you did not.
Not you. I'm talking to Vile.
Oh, Vile.
I don't remember you showing that to me, but it's funny
I
now.
specifically remember that, and I was like, wow, this is funny. It came up on my Twitter feed. Yeah, it was a nice one. Fooled me for a second.
That's a good one. That fooled the hell out of me. I thought a motherfucker got ran the fuck over. Shit.
Yeah, that's a fake video.
I'm just,
You know, there was another one of.
There's not that many stupid idiots on 4th of July like there was last year.
Oh.
Yeah, like the ones that think, hey, let's put our hands over the shit while the fire's burning.
No.
There was another one of.
It happened last year when I worked on 4th of July at one of my stores. Someone lit off a firework, startling an old man that was doing open carry, and shot the car next to my car.
Oh, shit. Wow. Sorry.
I remember that.
Wow.
And I literally walk out from my store to the parking lot, and there's three cop cars surrounding.
They're 3 deep
car.
around your car, yeah.
And I'm like, what I do? I swear I didn't do anything. I was like, no, you got to talk to that guy to find out what happened. And I talked to Walmart security, and he tells me the whole story. So again, until I relayed the story secondhand. So
yeah, but you walk out and you see cops 3 deep. I'm like, I'm going the other way. Fuck y'all. I'm walking home.
Hey, I didn't do anything.
Yeah, I'll find me later. I'm walking home.
I'm walking. Yeah,
I'm walking. And I'm walking.
I'm walking here.
I just hope we don't have any stupid people like that this 4th of July. I don't need to see another car get shot up.
Dude, I am so far north of Canada in the U.S. that we got some dumb motherfuckers up there. You literally, we can have people that are not even capable of lighting off fireworks, and they will do it. They will go out of state to get M80s from Illinois and all the other stuff. They will light
Did you
this
just
stuff off.
say you were north of Canada in the United States?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, certain parts of the United States is actually.
Section of the United States is actually north of part of Canada.
Yeah, it's called Alaska and parts of Michigan.
Well, yeah, but I don't think he's in Alaska. I mean,
No, I'm not in Alaska. No.
All right.
I'm in Michiganian.
Yeah, parts of Michigan is north of Canada. You got to go south.
Wow.
You gotta. I gotta go about 3 hours south to get to Canada.
Yeah, I know where you are.
Thank you for helping me visualize that. Because
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh,
but yeah, we
Lord.
got people that are so dumb. They'll go down to Illinois and get the M80s, right, and try to light them up, and they don't realize, hey, let's get our hands on the way. Well, you light up these M80 rockets, and they leave their hand there, and they're like, they blow their fucking hands off. It's like, jeez.
Dude, I live a block from the police station, and M80s and fireworks have been going off all week. Cops don't do jack
Yeah,
shit
but people
here.
up here are dumb. You don't understand. They're so dumb because Michigan has some of the dumbest rules. All right. Kudos to this state for never having had a death penalty. I give this state the kudos for that. It's the only state in the union that's never had a death penalty. But sometimes I wonder if we don't need laws and punishments that fit the crimes. If you're going to go out of state to get fucking M80s and you blow your hands off lighting them off, well, that should be the punishment for that.
Didn't Michigan make it an offense now, a finable offense for misusing somebody's pronouns or some shit?
Not that I know of. When was this?
That was in the news this week.
Nobody's made any laws like
this
that.
week. That's in the news this week.
No, they
Whitmore's
didn't,
pictures
because
there.
that's in clear violation of the First Amendment.
Yeah, nobody's made any laws about that.
Well,
yet.
that's never stopped Whitmore before. Here, let me find the article for you.
If it is, it's news to me. But hey, it's totally unconstitutional if it did happen. Even though I support
was
most
trying to bring up a
Republicans.
map so you can see there is a section of Canada that's south of the United States.
Yes.
There you go. Yes. Thank
Told you.
What?
By the way,
Captain.
By the way, Captain Foley lives in New London, Ontario, which is 2 hours south of me.
Cool.
Yes, I'm in Central Michigan, where CMU is.
Yeah, it'd be West Coast.
Yeah, if you look on this map, I'm in that bottom left-hand corner of the U.S., right where Mexico and the United States and the Pacific Ocean meet.
He's trying to breed guava plants to create the actual good American tequila.
I'm in the center of California on the coast.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
I'm not Northern California. I'm Southern California.
California.
Here's an article. Michigan House passes bill that could, it does say could, make using wrong pronouns a felony finable with the $10,000.
Oh, bullshit. That would never pass the state constitution.
No.
Recently, a recently passed bill in Michigan could, and that's not the word, could make it a felony to intimidate someone by intentionally using the wrong gender pronouns, according to some legal experts. Michigan's State of House of Representatives passed Bill HB 4474, a piece of legislation that criminalizes causing someone to feel threatened by words.
So in other words, by this statute, I can call a known gay man a faggot and be held on a felony.
I don't know. You have
already
that makes no sense.
One,
Not on Prometheus.
Sci-fi. Hold on. One, it was already illegal to do that in most states because we have laws considering simple assault, which is what we now call verbal assault. If you verbally assault somebody, it is a crime. I said in most states.
Not in this state, it ain't.
I said in most states. Will you shut up? 2.
I'm not the only one.
All that's doing is making a bigger fine for committing that crime. That can be, as me and Darren were talking about the difference between civil and criminal earlier, a civil lawsuit.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Try to get blood off a turnip. What are you going to get?
Well, if you can't pay your legal obligations, like in court settlements, they do put you in jail.
No, they don't. Michigan.
Yeah, they do.
No, they're that's
Michigan
considered
did away with that.
Yeah, it's called poverty court. Some states have eliminated that.
Yep, Michigan's one of them.
Yeah, it's called poverty court. That's totally unconstitutional.
As fucked up as that is, I don't think California has.
I believe California has got rid of poverty courts.
Yep, so did Michigan. Michigan can no longer hold you in jail for failure to pay court fines.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yeah, that would make
Civil
sense.
things or whatever. Yeah, Michigan
I
did
think-
away with that years ago.
I tend to think that if some of the ideas surrounding that bill passing come to pass, guys like Sci-Fi are going to be in trouble. Might want to move in Wisconsin or something.
I was also going to say, Darren, it's also
I'd
a
rather
Fox
go-
News article, so I take anything Fox News says.
Okay,
With
you know what? You
with
can
the
find the
Himalayas
same
side and
story. You can find the same story on a CNN site if you want.
You
Okay,
can
that
find
just
the
happens
stories all over.
that-
How about
that-
asking
that-
somebody
that-
who lives here?
That is a non-factor.
Yeah,
you
how
know.
about asking somebody that lives here?
You didn't even know that the thing passed.
No, I didn't. But here's the thing.
Then
It
why
didn't
would-
pass.
then
It
why-
might have passed the House. It might have passed the Senate. But it ain't
My-
gonna. It's not gonna get the governor's signature.
Well,
I just came up with a new drinking game. Anytime Darren puts the word "non" in front of something to make a point.
Yes. And what's the game?
Every time he does it, non sequitur, non-starter,
Non-sequitur,
non. What was the
non-sequitur.
last one? How many times did he put "non" in front of a word to make a point?
He did quite a few times.
it works. What do you want?
No, it doesn't work.
Oh.
That is a non-worker.
Non sequitur.
Oh, sorry that I have a greater
Just
command of our
because
language than you
just
do.
because you repeat something over and over again does not make you correct.
I wouldn't
Command.
have to repeat
You're like a
it.
recycling factory. That's what
I wouldn't have to
you are,
repeat it if I
Darren.
didn't- I wouldn't have to repeat anything if people would stop interrupting people by getting emotional and having to blurt out the first thing that pops into their head.
Dude,
while
I'm
somebody
not
else
emotional.
say
For
something.
one, two, I live.
Well,
here,
I'm down with
so-
that, but
Sorry,
most
I'm
people
actually-
don't know how to
I'm
throw away
spending my
their
time
first
right
thought.
now to actually Google the thing and actually look it up because, as I said, to me that's.
I mean,
I don't think that's what it actually
bullshit.
says. It's more like they're
Yeah.
saying it's like we shouldn't build airplanes because someone could.
Just because it could doesn't mean we should.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, the article was what it was. I didn't try to say that it said something that it didn't say. I made sure that whenever I read the word "could," that I emphasized this is saying it could happen, which is,
Okay.
it's
That's
possible,
where
alarmist.
yes,
I
I apologize. I took you wrong at that point, Darren. I do apologize.
Yeah, because that's at the beginning thing you said it did.
Just to
pass.
make up.
Well, they did pass
Sorry,
it.
I
The
didn't
House
see
passed
it.
it.
I was looking up the thing, and here, Darren, you want to know something that's funny? Both links to HB 4474 for the Michigan.gov are crashed right now, and I can't access them.
Yep, because they're taking them down, baby.
Well, we'll see. I mean, if you want, I can find you a CNN or CNBC article.
No, I'm
Oh,
talking about the
yeah.
links to the actual.
Yeah, to the
legislation.
actual
The
Michigan.gov website.
The legislation.
Right. But again, you seem to have a problem with Fox News, which I can understand. So
I don't. Mike
The
does.
legislation. That's
Okay,
why
No,
I went to
no,
the
no, here's
website.
here's the
That's why
difference.
That's
Here's
why
the
I took
difference.
the information from that article to go to the actual Michigan website, the Michigan government website, to try to look up the actual text of
Yes.
the law itself.
Which is
or
what
the
I
bill
would have done.
itself.
Which is
But
what
I
I would have
couldn't
done.
do it because their system is crashed right now, or at least I can't access it right now.
Hi,
Yeah,
Yvette.
it's probably-
And I'll
all
tell
I'm
you
saying.
this.
and,
I'll tell you
and
this.
that could be because a lot of people are trying to look at the law to find
Well,
out.
because you brought
verify
it up,
things.
Darren. You brought it up. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna say something bad to somebody. I could get sued. Yeah, you got about 5,000 people looking at shit up at the same time. Of course, what's
Or it could also be the fact that my computer fucking sucks and I'm running the live stream, and that's not. So it's like, no, we're not going to let you do that too.
I'll put the link in the chat.
How you doing, Yvette?
Hey, Beth.
Hello.
Hello.
I was waiting till I could fit in a hello.
Hey, Beth. How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah.
I am also
haven't been
out
on a
of my
few, I'm
tobacco
sorry.
products, so I'm going to end the stream at 11 because I want more cancer.
Ah.
He wants more cancer sticks, and he's out of them. I think. I don't know. I sell
Well, I
vapes
told him-
and cigarettes
I
at the
told Mr.
bodega, so
Kyle
I
that
don't know.
I was like, shoot, I haven't bought my carton in over 2 weeks. So what I have on Friday is all I have for the rest of the weekend.
I gotta
And
get a new
it's
carton
survived
tomorrow.
until
Make it
now.
last. Make it last.
I got 2 packs left. I gotta get a new carton tomorrow.
You know, it's always bothered me that tobacco smells so good and yet apparently it's so bad for you.
It smells so good when you're the one not smoking it. Then you smell somebody smoking it.
No,
like-
sci-fi. I once dated a girl who liked to just take my pack of cigarettes and smell them because she loved the smell. But as soon as I lit
Exactly.
up one, she hated the smell.
She ran the other
Smoke.
way.
Yeah. You notice I didn't say tobacco smoke. I said tobacco.
Oh, exactly. I knew exactly what you said.
And tobacco, tobacco smells great.
It does.
I always hate it when a woman complains, I will never kiss a smoker, so kiss in an ashtray. I'm like, how many times have you made out with an ashtray?
When's the last time you tongue fucked an ashtray?
Sheesh.
What? Say how it is.
Well, on that note, I think I'm going to be watching a movie today later in the underground. If anybody cares, I totally
what are
forgot
you
what the
showing?
movie's called, but it's some Samuel Jackson movie, 2015, and it has something to do with, I guess, cowboys or western or something.
It's not the snakes on a plane, is it?
Oh, it sounds like Hateful Eight.
Hateful
Sounds like
Eight. Yep,
Django Unchained.
that's it.
Oh wait,
There's
which one is
only-
this?
On the Cosmo.
There's
It's the
only
remake
one
of the
scene-
Hateful Eight. It's not the
Which
original.
one?
There's only one scene in that movie I don't like, and I will
I have
say
one
that,
question.
and you'll know
Is it-
you'll probably know what scene it is when you see it. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it the original LDG or is it the extended version?
It's
I'll
the
most likely get
remake.
the extended.
It's the remake of Sam Jackson. It's not the original Hateful Eight.
Are you
No,
putting
yeah,
it on
Samuel
your-
Jackson's
Oh
in it.
my god.
Let
Cosme,
Yvette
I'm sorry.
talk. She's
I
new.
got it. Oh, Yvette. I thought you were in the underground, sweetie. I thought you were in my. Never mind. Sorry.
She said hi.
Hi.
Yeah, but then
how you
Never
doing?
mind. Go ahead, Yvette. I'm sorry.
Just a question. Are you putting it on in Cosme?
Yeah, of course.
Good.
Yep. Yes.
By the way,
Wouldn't want to run anybody off who has an issue with the movie.
Not an issue with the
never
movie,
seen
an
the
issue with westerns.
Well, that's the movie.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Well,
SWAT.
I will say that as a Western, I mean, Tarantino did a lot of great film work in that movie, and it's mostly snow and wilderness. It's not the usual type of terrain for a Western.
I'll be honest. I haven't seen the Hateful Eight, but I recently rewatched Django Unchained. So
Django Unchained?
yeah,
Yes, I need to watch that.
I'm thinking about hate watching The Dial of Destiny.
Uh,
Oh, that too. I actually kind of do want to hate watch that.
Wait, what did she say? I'd like to hear the name of
The
it.
Dildo of Destiny.
oh,
I gave you the link to that. It's a good movie.
No, what did Yvette say she wanted to watch?
I want to hate watch
Yes, which
The
one?
new-
The Dial of Destiny.
the
And
new
if LDG's running a cowboy film in his Cosme, I'll put The Dial of Destiny on in my Cosme.
Okay. No problem. No problem. I just want to know which one you want to watch.
I wanted to watch Dildo of Destiny too.
Well,
What is it with you and sex toys, LDG? I don't understand.
I don't know. Someone said it, and I just stuck. I'm sorry. It's not me. It's not an original idea.
he wants his foot to be a sex toy. We know that.
yes, he does. I got to agree with Darren there.
For you,
Yeah,
my
you
foot
know,
is a sex
and we all
toy.
know that he's not Pamela the sex doll.
You know what? Your foot does not equal a French tickler. It's much too small.
I got attachments.
Well,
LDG tried to shove his foot up my arse. I'd break his fucking head off.
And you broke it off inside and handed it back to him. Ah.
Yvette,
Punch up,
Yes.
and break his foot off in mine.
you know what the anti-carrier device is, correct?
Sorry?
You heard of the anti-carrier device?
The anti-Karen
Anti-
device.
Anti-Karen.
Anti-Karen, sorry.
No,
You're
it's
welcome.
Fuck.
Anti-Karen.
Anti-Karen. Yes.
Yeah,
No.
that's the Dial of Destiny.
I'm sure I said I was going to hate watch it. I hated the Crystal Skull. So I'm damn sure I'll be hating it. But
Okay.
um,
Hold on. I'm trying to bring something up for.
Oh no!
British woman.
Here we go.
What are you bringing up, bud?
Come on, play.
You gotta
There
add
you
it
go.
to the stream.
Did you hear
You
that?
gotta present it.
Did you hear that?
No,
No.
you have to present it. You have to hit present.
I'm
And share
trying not to
audio.
present it.
Or share audio.
Yeah, present like share your arse.
Mm.
If you hit the little play button, it should
No,
tell
you
you how to
got to.
pronounce
You
it.
got to. You have to. You think? You're the one sharing it.
Do you hear it?
No, hit play.
Wikipedia.
I did hit play, but I don't want to play the whole article. I just want to play the
Well,
title.
we still can't see a video. We see like a Wikipedia
Anti-Kathira
file.
mechanism, not anti-Karen mechanism.
I didn't say anti-Karen.
I can see what it says, but I
You
see
said
no video. That you think.
anti-Karen.
I did not. That was fucking Eli.
I did not say anti-Karen.
Ladies and
You
gentlemen,
said
his
anti-Karen.
name is Vilemike, and welcome to his clusterfuck.
Mm.
I said anti-Karen.
Anti-Karen. Exactly. You said it
I
right.
didn't say anti-Karen.
Exactly.
I thought you said anti-Karen to me,
No.
and I'm like, if
How did
If
I
there was an-
anti-Karen to me as well?
Oh my
and if there was a
God, seriously,
device
these
that
things don't even know the right name
anti-Karen,
for
I'd
the
want
fucking
one just to
thing they
keep them
want
away
to
from
fucking
me when
make
I
fun of
work.
It's called social media.
Hi-Fi, are you incapable of letting other people talk, or do you just talk over everyone?
No, I'm just making fun of everybody else. How you?
Yeah, but you're talking over
I
everyone.
just made it myself.
I was trying to tell a joke
Made it
saying
up
if there was an
yourself? Sorry,
anti-Karen
that's
device,
my
I would
own
want one
topic.
while I'm working.
Yeah, it's called social media.
myself.
No.
Yes,
If I
baby.
can't breathe without talking.
I'm also taking care of my missus here at the moment. So yes, you're welcome.
All right.
Shut up and take care of her then.
All
Oh,
right.
I gotta eat soon.
All right. Anything you guys want to plug before I go? Because I'm going to end the stream.
Well, thank you.
Y'all go ahead, because there ain't nothing I can say to make people watch my video.
All right.
Not that I can think of.
All right. Then in that case, I'm just going to play me getting shot with a phaser again, and I'll end the stream.
Take care.
All right, you're 19 years old now. I figure it's about time you got one after all your complaining.